San Diego Superchargers, San Diego Superchargers, charge. What up, homies? We're back here. It's episode 81 of the Friday Night Movie Club. I got my two road dogs with me here tonight. I think this is a good show to talk about roadhouse and bar fights and the Catholic Church and some movies. This is a night of franchises that probably should have died 30 years ago. Yeah, here we are still talking about them today. And our good buddies joining us here once again tonight is a good buddy, Mr. Rob Mata. How you doing today, Rob?
Good. I actually just watched was it the Road Dogg and Billy Gunn beat Mankind in a tag team handicap match from '98's SummerSlam last night. So that's perfect. Good. The Ghostbusters movie's not good. The Roadhouse movie's not good. But at least I could say this: we are not in Argyle territory. I mean, it's pretty bad, but we're not in Argyle territory.
Well, we'll have. Like you said, for some reason, you guys have a much lower vision of Argyle for me than I do, and I didn't like Argyle at all. Like, it's still one of my lower tier movies, but I feel like there's a few movies out there that are probably still worse than this one. We'll talk about it as course the night goes. Also, our good buddy Rick Aragon is joining us back again tonight. How you doing, Rick?
I'm doing very well, and I measure every bad film to Argyle to see whether or not I would actually watch Argyle or watch movie X, and so far nothing has beaten Argyle as like the worst. Although this one
were you here when we watched? Were you here when we watched Drive Away Dolls? Were you here that week?
No, I was.
Okay,
not.
so that's why you're still using Argyle as the measuring stick, because you didn't see that film yet.
Yeah, but yeah, it's been going well. I did not get to see Roadhouse, and I've never seen the original. So I did.
You weren't even here the movie night where we actually watched Roadhouse.
No, I was not here either.
That was a great night. That might have been the best movie night that we've had.
Yeah.
No, sorry. For me, it's always going to be Elvira. So I saw I saw Immaculate, and against my better judgment, I went to see Frozen Empire. So
yeah, there'll be a lot of time to talk about all the terrible movies that we discussed here tonight. But we are currently live on X, we're live on Rumble, and we're live on YouTube as well. What else do we got going on here? I did have something pulled up, but hold on a second.
Oh, I've got a little bit of your podcast, Robert. You're doing very well.
Yeah, well, the Badgers are losing by 9 in the first half, and the
On
game
Wisconsin?
just started at 9:40, so it's not good.
Is
Anyway,
that
yeah,
is that why
thank you.
Gabe keeps tweeting on Wisconsin, or is that you?
Yes, that's the little I don't know what you call it saying.
It's
you know,
both
each
of
college.
you.
has
Both of you
a
tweet that.
yeah. I mean, I've been a Wisconsin fan since I decided. Okay, this is how I got to root for all my sports teams, was choosing a rival of a Philadelphia area or Pennsylvania based team that I hate because their fans are so fucking obnoxious. So for college, it's Wisconsin because they always kicked Penn State's ass in college football and college basketball. And that's still been pretty much true the last 15, 20 years. Baseball, it's the Atlanta Braves because and that was just pure luck of having them on TBS Superstation, which is just like awesome. For a time I was a Rangers fan because fuck the Flyers. And football, I'm just a Titans fan, so I didn't have to deal with the Northeast. I don't know what it is. Eagles fans are terrible. New
Yes,
York Giants, Jets fans are terrible. Patriots fans are terrible. Though, like when you win so much, it's kind of hard. You understand why they're so insufferable. Everybody in the Northeast is just pissy and angry and hates each
The
other, and
worst,
so
the
I
absolute
needed to
worst.
get out of the area for my NFL team.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be going. I hope to go to Atlanta this year to see a Braves game. So there's that.
The
The
two of the
College
best
Football Hall of
ballparks,
Fame. Which ones?
two of the best Major League Baseball ballparks are in my area, Pittsburgh and Baltimore. At least that's what I hear from baseball fans. Those are two really good stadiums to check out and go to.
Well, I have heard good things about Pittsburgh, and I'm I guess somewhat eager now to see the College Football Hall of Fame. That's more Gabe's thing. He'll be in heaven. I'll be maybe in purgatory because I won't understand what's going on, and he's going to endure the Carter Presidential Library. So we're splitting it even.
Yeah, I had to step out there for a second. Obviously, for those guys who aren't here in the South, there's a little time period around the springtime, or as we get close to spring, where everything in the entire state just turns green. So you go outside, like everybody's car is completely green. You can see the pollen like in the air. So it's been kicking my butt here over the last few days here. So I'm not one of those persons that like sneezes once. Like I got a good like 40-second sneeze out before I can I guess function back in factory settings. So yeah, I had to step out there for a second. But I will say this before we start talking about our movies. We're talking a little bit about March Madness before we started live here. Obviously, the big upset last night was Kentucky losing to Oakland. Now not even Oakland, California, like Oakland, like Michigan. Lost to them last night. Some guy who looks like Dan Aykroyd dropped like 40 points on him last night. It was absolute embarrassment for his player. And so many people had Kentucky either in their Final Four, or actually winning the national championship, and they get bounced in the very first round. So that was a very hilarious outcome there. And then apparently Yale just beat Auburn too here. So there's another sleeper that just got knocked out too. So it's the beauty of March Madness. I mean, like I said, there's no real teams anymore because players who go to college football, especially on the men's side, they're only there for 1 year so they can jump right back to the NBA. So they really don't care about college at all. But it feels like it's a lot more open now than it was like several years ago when you could probably better predict who was going to win and who was going to lose. Now it's just an absolute free for all.
Well, it's kind of reflective of what you often say about basketball, that it's not really a team sport anymore. You see this a lot in professional, in the NBA, and it's no surprise that it's now in college, where it's just about your individual record to go on to the NBA. But
But
uh,
it's unfortunately it's the exact wrong take to have when it comes to college basketball. College is where you can still see defense and teamwork and the fundamentals, and you do see that. I mean, just watching a couple games, you see actual effort. And again, this is a tournament, so the competition is definitely raised versus the regular season. But you actually see people rebounding and defending and like hustle and an actual passion for the game. So I love watching March Madness every single year because you have these crazy upsets. You have players that you've never heard of who just go off for 40 points just because right place, right time, and they, the better team couldn't beat them. They couldn't stop them. Uh, it's a really exciting sporting event for that reason because literally anything can happen. It actually gets less interesting as the better teams advance. Sweet 16, Elite 8. You kind of have a handle on the games. Sometimes they're not nearly as close as the early rounds are. So yeah, the upsets are a lot of fun, and it always makes it it makes it, you look forward to it every year, kind of thing.
Well, I mean, I really, I don't follow a lot of basketball. I know that for like a few years back, was it Baylor when Baylor won? I think
Yeah.
was it Baylor? A lot of people in El Paso were just very upset, not because they were cheering on Gonzaga, except me, but because Texas Western, what is now UTEP, was the only Texas school to have a championship.
Yeah, what's
So
that movie
now,
called with Josh
uh,
Lucas? Glory Road?
Glory Road, yeah.
Yeah.
And they actually renamed part of the street near the Don Haskins Center, Glory Road. And the
Remember
movie could
John
have been
Voight with
better.
that terrible nose? See, that was a bad prosthetic.
Yeah,
Jeez.
that was not maestro level. But I will say that I reminded people who were upset about that. I said, we still have bragging rights as the first Texas school. And eventually it had to happen where a Texas school would win. But a lot of people in El Paso just were so very upset when Baylor won. It was like, well, no, good for them. I mean, that's what that's the nature of the game. And eventually, all things must end. But
Well,
we're
from
still
what I
proud.
heard from a friend of mine, Baylor is basically like the lefty progressive quote unquote Christian school of the state of Texas. So I don't know how true that is, but he seems to demean it pretty well. So I'll take his word for it. That's all I'll say then.
There's so many Christian schools too. There's like, was it Texas
Christian.
Texas Christian, TCU, you have like all these Baptist school, Methodist schools. I'm just like,
Southern
how many
Methodist.
denominations are there?
There's SMU, Southern Methodist.
SMU, yeah, thank you.
Yes, which is where the I think that's where the George W. Bush Library is located.
And then just speaking of these false religious schools, let me take a moment and just absolutely dunk on BYU. You absolute sack of crap Mormons cannot play the game of math. Did you see that game last night? That was just absolutely embarrassing. Everyone should be fundamentally embarrassed by that game that they put out there last night. Why? How did they even get in? Like who put them in as out large? There's no way they won their conference.
It was the Angel Moroni. He worked his magic.
Yeah, right. It couldn't help to win a basketball game, though. That's one sure.
Well, I've been to This Is the Place. That there's a park where they have the various homes of the first Mormons, and that's where they apparently found the state of. Well, they wanted Deseret, but
Was
they
it
ended up having
Zion
to.
Park or whatever?
I'm not sure if it's Zion, but no, it's called This Is the Place, and I think yes, they wanted to call the state Deseret, but apparently that prophecy was not fulfilled, and they were forced to take Utah. And it's one of the few places where the Mormons actually acknowledge the myriad of wives that Brigham Young had, because there's a picture of him and then all of the other women. I'm just curious, which one of those wives is the ancestor to Steve Young? I'm just curious, like where does he trace, to which wife of Brigham Young does he trace his ancestry?
I'm already asleep, so
yeah. There aren't that many. Yeah, there I don't know many Mormon football players, so there's just that one. But I passed by BYU. It's nice when you drive by it.
Anyway, we're gonna start this film talking about more religious heresy. Let's talk about Immaculate. Rick, this is your assignment here for the week. So let's get a little bit into this one. Sydney Sweeney, over the last few months, this is like her third movie in like 4 months now. So she's like almost all over the place. Her star is rapidly rising. You wonder if it's organic or not, or you wonder if somebody did in fact make a couple of trips to the Four Seasons in Beverly Hills, and we'll see that play out later on here. So now, according to her, this is a film that she has been trying to make for quite some time. So this is something that she's apparently worked with Sony Pictures about. She's mentioned in recent interviews that the reason why she did Madam Web in the first place was to allow her to do this film. So this is somewhat a passion project for Sydney Sweeney. I don't know the angle here for this one, but
the passion of the Sweeney.
Yeah, quite literally. This is a Catholic-based horror film, which I find it very, very interesting with the Hollywood's love affair with like Roman Catholicism, especially when it comes to horror, because it's like there's nothing sets the tone of something's demonic than just like let's set this with the Roman Catholic Church and the Vatican and Italy. It'll all be fine and everything plays out about there. So
well, these are theatrical people. Like the Catholics, I mean, are incredibly over the top theatrical, like, bleeding out of your eyes kind of shit. Where so it's like
Yeah.
I understand. I mean, and Pauline Kael talked about this in the 70s with, now granted, we were getting The Godfather, we were getting Mean Streets, we were getting these The Deer Hunter, these painful sort of artistic expressions. They weren't, kind of crappy horror movies. So
Well, the Deer Hunter, wouldn't that be more Greek Orthodox?
he's Italian. Cimino, he has a vowel at the end of his name. He's Italian to me. Okay.
Oh, do say motto.
Yeah,
But
exactly. See?
yes. Well, I'm one of the few Hispanics who does not have a vowel or a Z in the end of his name. But yeah, there's a certain there's a certain thing with Catholicism in nuns in horror film. I mean, there's The Omen. I don't know if Rosemary's Baby counts, but we're getting
Well,
we're getting a first Omen, and then The Nun. When they were like showing other horror films, like The Devil Within Her, The Killer Nun. Alamo has they show trailers of movies connected to this thing, and those were a couple
it's
of
a
the trailers.
weird it's a weird relationship that I don't think gets talked about enough, like this whole thing of like Roman Catholicism in Hollywood. Because if you remember, it was like 5 or 6 years ago, remember when the Met Gala did their whole like Roman Catholic Church themed event, and everyone was saying that, oh, this is so blasphemous, I can't believe they're attacking the church. And then come to find out, like a couple days later, it's like the Roman Catholic Church actually supplied like all of the like looks and like the styles, like even supply some of the artifacts for them to use to this church and for this event. But if you look at the way that Hollywood always portrays Christianity, like there's something going on where it's always like Roman Catholicism. When it comes to like these demonic movies where it's about demon possession, it's always something in the vein of, oh, well, we have to get a priest to exorcise this demon because that's the only way that we can get this done. Or if it's a horror theme, it's always based in Catholicism. Or if it's just portraying Christianity in general, it's always Roman Catholicism. I think you even mentioned this a few weeks back when we talked about the film Father Stu, which I know is a film that Rob didn't like, but it's kind of said it's the same thing over and over again. So nobody really asks the question. It's like, what is it with this relationship that Hollywood has with the Roman Catholic Church? Even people who are allegedly Catholics who say that they hate Hollywood because they think it's degenerate. Well, apparently Hollywood loves Roman Catholicism because it's all in every single movie that we had. I mean, how many films last year did we have that was with a similar term? When we had like the Pope's Exorcist last year was one of them. We had one of the other exorcism movies. I know there's like 3 of them last year, but that's just another one on top of my head. And there's a few others too. So they seem to love it, and they seem to get a lot of publicity and style points for it. So
Well, I don't think it's some sort of conspiracy. I think it's more an easy shorthand, because if you went to a Baptist church or a Methodist, well, Methodists and Episcopalians are, I don't really count them as actual Christians.
well,
But
yeah.
I think it's just easier because the church has all the regalia and the cross, so it's
That's
easier.
the thing too,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Because
easier.
you can't do it at like a regular like Baptist church because nobody's wearing robes and there's no dark shadows and catacombs for like everyone to like run through. Like it just doesn't work in the same setup too, which is why they love the dark and scary gothic themes of like Roman Catholicism too. So it plays up to horror. I don't know what exactly that says about the church, but we can do that on another episode on a Monday night. But for this particular film, this is a movie, like I said, this is one of Sydney Sweeney's passion projects. She's the producer of this film. She stars in this movie. So this is one that she really wanted to put out there. And it's basically a film that starts off as a premise of a young girl who turns to religion at a young age, goes all the way to Italy to join an exclusive covenant of nuns.
Did you say covenant? I think
Did I say covenant?
convent. Yes, you
Convent.
said covenant.
Oh,
Convent.
Convent.
yeah.
Covenant is a promise. Yeah.
I was thinking of the like which that was completely blanked out of my mind there.
It's a biblical term. It's fine.
Yeah. Wrong phrase, but still. So she goes there to essentially help like dying nuns in their last days. So it's like, when the nuns are done with their work, they have to hey, we gotta get them essentially hospice care, and this is why you younger whippersnappers are here. So it's a whole I guess little because there's a couple of ways you can look at this without going into spoilers here, but I don't want to say it is a cult, even though it turns out to be exactly a cult. But then the setup here is that you're helping your older sisters who have already given their life to Christ, so you basically do the same. So she gives her life to this organization. She comes in there, helps people, and then all of a sudden, just one day out of the ordinary, she holds a nail which has said to have been taken from the cross that Jesus Christ himself was hung from, and she has like this weird like blackout moment, and then she wakes up and you find out a few days later, oh, she's pregnant, but she never had sex with anyone. She claims to be a virgin beforehand and didn't have sex with any guys that was there. So oh, it must be the Immaculate Conception, just like the Catholics say with Mary. It's like, oh, he immaculately conceived like this child, and like, so quite literally they start treating her as if she's like the new Virgin Mary. That's what they do, and then like all the symbolism is there, and that everyone's like praying to her and worshiping her and all this old stuff.
Well,
But then
not
you start,
everyone. There's one who does not.
well, yeah, there's one heretic which we'll talk about here in a second, but of course things start going wrong here because as she's I guess building this whatever, this miracle baby as they say in her stomach, her teeth start coming out, and it's like, oh, this is bad. And then like her nails start coming out of her fingers, so it's like, oh, what happened here? Am I actually pregnant with the miracle child of God? She finds out later on that she actually is not, and there's something far more sinister going on here, and shocker, the Roman Catholic Church is behind it. So Rick, I'm gonna go ahead and start this one off with you. We've seen so many of, like I said, these Catholic-based horror films over the last few years. Does it really just get too formulaic after like a time period? Like, is there anything to really get invested to when it just feels like you're just watching the same movie over and over and over again? Do you feel that way, or what did you think of the opening for this movie?
Well, I mean, there's nothing really unique about creepy nuns. I think it just. See, I've not seen Shogun.
Go watch Last Samurai, okay? It's fine.
Oh, well, maybe. I did see Seven Samurai, which is great. So I will. I'll say that there's again nothing strange about creepy nuns. That's all we get. We either get really creepy nuns or funny nuns. Like I guess the flying nun or nuns on the run, even though they're not technically nuns.
Sister Act.
Sister Act. They did show a trailer for Sister Act 2, Back in the Habit. So there's only two types of nuns. It's not unique. You almost expect there to be like really creepy goings on, especially when when the older nun says, it's forbidden. Oh no, it's the rather bitchy nun who says it's forbidden for you to enter the catacombs. It's like, oh wow. And then you have the nuns, all like some of them in like red masks. Is like, I don't know if it's something traditional because I've not seen a lot of horror films with nuns, unless you count Sister Act 2. But honestly, it's not. You're not diving into new territory or exploring new territory here with creepy nuns. It's all. I mean, it's not unique. I'll put it that way, Jacob.
No, but I'm just like, when it comes to like the premise of these movies, it always feels like the setup is exactly the same, and then we get to the middle where it's like, oh, someone's keeping something, and it's always coming from like the upper echelons of the organization or of the church, and then by the third act, it just becomes like demon possessed nonsense. Like I just personally feel like I've seen this film time and time again, whether it's like The Nun or The Pope's Exorcist, and it's like after a while, you just gotta be like, do you guys got like anything else to really, I guess, contribute to like the genre that you guys are doing now? Because after a while, it's just like I just immediately tune out because it's like, okay, I've seen this before, and unless you show me something that's gonna leave like any kind of like impression like on me after the fact, it's like it doesn't work on me anymore. I don't know
Well,
what
I
to say.
mean,
Maybe.
the only film that I could think of that is not like that is The Nun Story with Audrey Hepburn, which is long but very well made and well acted. Again, I don't know if it's anything unique, but you do wonder, like
Hmm.
if they just keep diving into the same, like I said, the same territory. Because again, it's easier. You have the setup of, what's supposed to be a very devout religious order, but then there's some sort of shadiness and some sort of darkness that's come upon them. They're either under siege or part of it. So that's really my intro. But you get, and I can tell for the intro, you get like standard characters. You get the bitchy nun, and you get like the kind of sarcastic, more worldly nun, and she's supposed to be like this innocent. So you're not mining new territory. And I'll be honest, for most of this movie, I was with it. I wasn't hating it, but we'll get on to as to my final
Uh,
thoughts. But
I'll say this: like for most of the movie, I just kind of felt like indifferent towards it. Like I didn't have any like real feelings of oh this is okay or oh this is bad. It was just like okay, we're just kind of like moving along, and that's kind of my biggest knock on this film is that it's just on screen stuff happens, and then the plot moves forward, but you like it just doesn't pull like any kind of emotional reaction out of you. It's kind of just like it's like a roller coaster that like just goes in like one direction. It never goes up and never goes down. It's just like oh, we're just moving along with the story here. And I've said this before on other movies that we reviewed with Sydney Sweeney. I don't particularly think that she's that good of an actress. In this film, not much is very much required out of her outside of we get to like the very ending where obviously there's like a lot of like screaming and terror. I think she does that very well. That's like the facials of her for screaming and terror, but that's pretty much all it's kind of asked for like in this movie. So it's like you have her here, and then you talked about the heretic, the
the
woman
bitchy
who
nun.
yeah, the bitchy nun who only joined this little group because no, she doesn't like men or she doesn't trust men, so she decided that she was going to join a sisterhood group, and that was like her only motivation. Like I don't think she actually believed in God like at all. She's just like, yeah, I'm
Oh
just used to
wow,
men lying to me.
you're thinking of another person. I called her the sarcastic nun, the bitchy nun. That's Sister Isabel, the one who's always snapping at her. And
Oh, you mean the one who jumped off the building earlier in the film, right?
well, she jumped no later in the film. She jumped off later in the
You're
film.
Well,
talking about the
it was
Omen.
it was earlier in the film because it was before the bitchy one that you were talking about got captured and then got her tongue ripped out of her face. So it was before that scene in the film.
Yeah, so you see that one, Sister Isabel, the kind of vaguely British one, she's the bitchy nun. The Italian one, the one who's smoking and like telling the priest and the papal nuncio or the archbishop off,
Yeah.
that's the sarcastic nun. So we don't really need to learn their names. I wrote them down, but yeah. Yeah, I'm getting because I'm trying to clarify which nun, what nun is nun, what nun, the nun. I'm trying to clarify which nun is nun.
The Flying Nun, starring
The f-
Sally Field. I do just hearing you guys talk about it. It does seem like you know she is reacting to a lot of stuff that's happening throughout the movie. She's a beautiful woman. It's low light. It's like you know what I mean. Like that's probably the allure to this movie is that hey, it's Sydney Sweeney being terrified for
Well,
90
there,
minutes.
there there are a couple of scenes where she is bathing, but she, like most nuns, would have that kind of camisole type uh, outfit, and you do get to see it a little wet, not nothing too
And
graphic.
and a lot of these movies, a lot of these modern horror movies that don't necessarily have a lot that you know deviates them from movies like other horror movies basically.
Yeah.
It's like she's the final girl and you see her combating this. I get it. It's this institution that's supposed to look after people and care about people and guide them to God and Jesus and their religious relationship, but is secretly evil and corrupted. So it's like and I get it. It's like, you're taking an institution of what Western civilization, men, etc., and kind of demonizing and saying, hey, there's something insidious here. They did this with Suburbia. Like there's something below the surface of those beautiful green grasses and immaculate houses, and there's something underneath the it's the same thing. You know what I mean? It's taking something that most people perceive as good and trying to subverting it and turning it on its head, saying, hey, there's something nefarious going on.
There's a little blue
Yeah.
velvet there.
Right.
Yeah, and like I said, this has been a big theme with like a lot of these films that we've seen over the last several years too, and that's why like just going into this, like there just wasn't like much I don't really see like what's the grasp of the story. Like it's very basic story that has like an interesting premise if you could like move it in a different direction. Because like I said, at one point these women are essentially treating her as if like she's their new like blessed mother and all that whole thing, but that doesn't really carry much weight past like 10 minutes after that whole scene happens, so they kind of like throw that away rather quickly. And then the rest of the film is just all about, oh, it was this conspiracy by the Catholics who are trying to bioengineer like the next Jesus Christ because they believe that they had Jesus' blood on the nail. So they start doing like experimentations down in like this lab where they're trying to quite literally create another another
Yes,
Messiah and
I
another savior. And I was like, well, if you guys are Catholics, why do you guys need another savior? Like that doesn't even make any sense. Like if you claim to believe in Jesus, you already have a savior. Why do you need another one? It's like none of the whole plot just didn't make any sense at all
I
from that
I
aspect.
I wrote at a certain point before they got to the third trimester. I said, are they are trying to clone Christ? I mean, they're trying, so they're trying to. They basically, this is the plot, Rob. They managed to get the DNA off the nails, which they believe were part of the crucifixion. And so they got the DNA finally because their priest, who's also basically a mad scientist, managed to extract the DNA, and they needed to impregnate it. They kept getting it wrong until they hit upon this nun, and they managed to get it right this time. So she's going to carry the child to term. It's almost like a, I guess, more orthodox version of Rosemary's Baby, where or The Omen, where you're instead of conceiving the child of Satan, you're actually conceiving, bringing Christ back. And I would question it. As Protestants, at least as I would consider myself a Protestant, it doesn't make it's not like horrifying because I do not believe in the relics. And moreover, it would have just been easier to have taken something from the Shroud of Turin. That probably would have a better shot of having DNA if you believe that it is
Well,
the actual
obviously, and
shroud.
this is another reason why it's Catholicism, because obviously, when you're telling a story like this, relics and idols and all these other things play far better to the Roman Catholic Church than it is to just regular Protestant like Christianity or anything like that. So there's a reason why they need these items in the context of the story, because otherwise, you wouldn't really have much of a story to tell here. And I do love this little scene here where it's like they come rushing in, and it's literally like, when they find the head in the bed in The Godfather, and everyone's like starts screaming, and then come to realize it's just a chicken the entire time, and it wasn't even like real blood.
Oh yeah, well this is because they thought she was going to miscarry, and
Hmm.
we can't have
It's
the recreation of the clone of Christ being miscarried.
like, but here's the thing. I get that was the setup, but there was so much blood in that scene. It was like, if it was that literally that much blood, like both of you would be dead. Like right now, she wouldn't be like screaming like, "Oh man, I'm in pain!" It's like you got like 7 liters of blood like pouring like all over like the bed. Like you would be dead at that point, you and your baby. But
Well, I mean, well, I guess they should know. They've already had several failed experiments, and we do get to
mhm.
see the failed experiments near the end of the movie. So there are, I guess, there are points of logic that I would ask in this film. For example, the bitchy nun. At one point, and I guess okay, we're getting into spoilers now, so just
No one
you get
cares.
you're
No one
getting
cares.
your spoiler warning. Um, the bitchy nun tries to murder the sister, sister, whatever her name is, Clarissa,
Sweeney.
yeah, Sweeney, yeah,
Like
tries to murder
Cecilia,
her.
is that her
Yeah,
name in the
Cecilia, that's
film?
right,
Yeah.
Santa Cecilia. The bitchy nun tries to murder her, and she runs out, and they drag her. As they're dragging her out, she's like, "It was supposed to be me. It was supposed to be me. I was supposed to like." So these nuns know that they're trying to like clone them and impregnate them. I mean, the first clue that something was amiss was how quickly they accepted. They're not upset or horrified that a nun got pregnant, which I think is something similar to Agnes of God with Jane Fonda and Bancroft and Jennifer Tilly. I think it's Jennifer or Meg Tilly. I can't remember which one. Where the nun, has a dead baby there. Is born and nobody knows who impregnated her. The first clue that something was off was they're not upset. They're like, "Oh, how wonderful! She's with child." There's never a question as to that this is a miracle. And I would think, well, I think the Catholic Church is not they would be slightly upset that a nun somehow got knocked up. They won't just accept it quickly. But of course, this is an isolated convent, um, so they're up to
But
some shady
then
business.
that's another thing too, because did they ever actually explain how they got her pregnant in the first place? Like I felt like maybe I just like blitz flashed that part, but they never actually explained how
Okay,
they impregnated her without her knowledge to begin with.
no, no, no. Okay. Trying to draw logic into this, and I know it's strange. Trying to draw logic into this, it was those masked nuns when she thinks she's having a dream. That's
Mm-hmm.
when I guess when she sees all these nuns in red masks, and that's when they impregnate her. I guess through in vitro fertilization. They just inject her, and that's how she gets pregnant. I mean that's my thinking because there was no sex, and this is not like Rosemary's Baby, where we see the where she thinks it's like a freak out, but no, it's actually all of them there coming, as Satan is literally having sex with her. So that's the way I understand she got pregnant. Like
Yeah,
basically they
Mia
injected her.
Farrow is the real demon in that one. So yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my mom always said it was a very
See,
sad
I
movie.
was thinking to myself, like, did she get pregnant because she touched the magical Jesus nail, and then all of a sudden, like that, like impregnated her? But it's like, I don't like how
No,
did or
no, that would that
turkey baster? It's like, how did this whole thing, like,
I don't know. There's no way because if she just takes the nail, I mean, your DNA is not going to go through your hand and down to down to your body to impregnate you.
aren't those how babies are made, or that's not how it works anymore?
No, I think the way you have babies is if you share the same cup and you drink out of the same cup.
Ah, okay, that
See,
makes sense now.
yeah, but no, that was the only way that she could get pregnant. And remember, the priest, the mad scientist priest does tell her that they've tried many times to get it right, and they conveniently left all the bodies of the previous uh, attempts at
Victims.
cloning, yes, at cloning down there. I don't quite understand though, like why the bitchy nun wanted to get pregnant with this. So you see, when you have that, it means that she knew. So all of these nuns probably knew that they were being selected for this kind of offbeat breeding program.
They're
So they
But
knew
groupies.
that they knew they were in a cult, but then they just tell anyone else that
yes,
yeah, this is
yes,
totally a death cult, by the way.
but they didn't tell her, and there's
Yeah.
nothing specific about her that makes her the perfect vessel for this clone, because it's not Christ. I mean, that would require the Holy Spirit to overshadow Mary, who
Essentially
willingly
what happened
submits.
here, especially if you covered my Monday night show the last 2 weeks, they tried to make her create her own Nephilim baby, and then everything went wrong. That's pretty much what happened here. This whatever DNA from what demonic spirit they were using to impregnate her, they tried to create a Nephilim, and then it just didn't work very well.
You see, and that's the thing. Even with
Oh
the
God. Oh man. Oh, that's a throwback. If you guys remember that the 2016 Don't Breathe movie.
Hmm.
no, I don't remember. Um, assuming that they managed to extract the DNA from from the nail, first you have to accept that that was the actual nail from the crucifixion. So that's already dubious.
Hmm.
Second, you've got to be able to extract the DNA from the nail, and then
A
manage to.
2,000-year-old nail, by the way.
This is why this movie is like science fiction and horror, because it's like this is fucking Jurassic Park. We learned this. Okay? It's not amber, okay? It's not like
Hmm.
a little insect inside of some fucking amber that you can extract the DNA from, which again is bullshit anyway because it's Jurassic Park.
Well,
But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
well, no, I would say you would need Sir Dickey to explain all of this in a cute animated sequence.
Yep.
So okay, so you do that, and you failed consistently. Bless them for for keep trying, but there are a lot of things that don't. Well, I know there are a lot of things that don't make sense. But you see, the thing is, I rolled with it. I was like, okay, is this not great? This is, passable. It's better than Argyle. Until we got to the actual end. When we got to the actual
So
end.
when we get to the ending of this movie, there's a final showdown between Sydney's character and I guess the evil psychotic demon priest,
The
and
mad
then he ends up
scientist.
the man scientist priest dude. He ends up going away, and then the last like 5 minutes of the movie is a very long, drawn out, awkward like birth delivering scene where she gives birth to this demonic baby that you don't actually see, but you can just hear from the noises that it's not quite human. So then she goes around, she looks for a giant rock, she picks up the rock, and then she smashes the baby, and then that's literally the end of the film.
Well, it cuts to black. We don't actually see her smash the baby.
Yeah, but you can hear it, so I mean, it
You
was
you you
implied.
you, you it, yes, it's implied. There are so many things with that scene. First off, it has a close up. I mean, we don't see the birth. We actually just see a close up of her bloodied face as she's delivering
Mm.
and just kind of screaming. When the child is actually born, you hear this kind of thud, kind of just this thud that something fell to the ground. The audience in the theater I went to laughed. They just burst out laughing at that particular moment, even though you don't see the baby. Just like you just hear the bunk, and then the audience started laughing. And it
And then
doesn't help
she
that
literally chews off her own
umbilical
umbilical
cord.
cord too.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, she chews it off. Then that's when she goes around and looks for this like something, a rock to smash the baby. The audience did not laugh. They seemed rather stunned and not very comfortable with that idea, because I mean it is almost implying like you're going to kill a baby. And
Hmm.
I think that's just a little strange. Regardless, I mean they couldn't kill Rosemary's Baby.
Even though it was like a demonic Nephilim baby, like it's still a baby. It's like, yeah, whatever.
Well, I mean the same thing with Rosemary's Baby, and
Mm.
kind of a little off track. That's why my mom always called it a sad movie, because at the end she still has to nurse and take care of her baby, which is the literal spawn of Satan. So that didn't quite work. I wish they had kind of left it at an ambiguous ending there, or maybe found another way to end it.
Yeah,
Uh,
I can't say anything because I haven't seen it or whatever, but I actually appreciate that kind of risk taking where you're just like, no, we're going there. Okay. It's
Hmm.
fucked up and disturbing, and we're fucking going there. So it just, but again, I haven't seen the movie. I probably would have
I
been
think if they wanted to
out
go like
at that
even
point.
further, if they wanted to go even further on like the shock and the horror, they would have had her pick up the rock, smash the baby a couple of times, and then the baby was like still moving. And then she realized she couldn't kill it, and then that's what the horror sets in.
Well, no, I mean, at this point, why don't you just pick the baby up and just from its umbilical cord and start swinging it around like they did in Freddy Got
Freddy
Fingered?
got fingered.
Yeah, yes.
Love that movie.
That's the only movie, one of the few movies I could not finish. I ordered my friends to stop it, and I was forced to watch it. Point being, yeah, why don't you do that if you wanted to do the shock value? But I don't know this. Even though you're right, even though I don't know if it's supposed to be a demonic baby. It's
I
still
mean,
not
I
something that
think
sits well
given
with
the
me.
people involved, you can make a strong opinion that it was a demonic baby. Like, I
Well,
don't.
it would have been kind of a freakish thing, because again, they had failed. They had consistently failed with their mad scientist experiment of cloning Christ. What is to say that this baby would have been correct? And then we don't even know, they can't control. I don't think they can control the gender. So it might not. I mean, unless they expect Christ to come back as a female. I don't. I mean, those are the things that I know. It sounds strange that I'm questioning things like this. So I don't know. For me, that was just, it didn't quite. That's when the movie kind of, well, I didn't quite give up on it, but it's like, I was with you for so long as passable, kind of mid-level horror type thing, but then it just kind of ended on a bad note. Separate from the actual, like, taking a rock and smashing a baby, just the thud that just made the audience laugh. The whole audience laughed. I mean, this is not supposed to. I don't know if that was the reaction that you're supposed to get, or that they were aiming for. Like, laughter when you just hear, literally, you just hear this bunk, and then we presume that's the baby being born.
Yeah. Well, if I'm getting a rating to this film, this is like a 2 out of 5. I mean, like I said, it's just kind of there. Like I wouldn't even say if you're motivated to check it out, check it out. You can miss this one entirely. Like I said, it's not horrible. It's not going to be on like the worst movies of the year, but like I said, it's just a movie that's just there. So yeah, 2 out of 5 for me.
Yes, that's probably be my rating too. I mean, it was not terrible, but I don't know if that's a compliment. It
Hmm.
was serviceable, and if they had the ending did not land for me, and if I don't know if they had just kind of kept it a little more ambiguous, then I might have given it a barely passing, like maybe a 2.5. But right now it's a 2. It's not good. I like some of the atmosphere. It has appropriately creepy music, and it does have at least one good jump scare. But it's like, no, it's better than Argyle. I'll say that. It's better than Argyle.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't do as many stupid things as Argyle did, so I can't really argue with that much. So.
It's better than Frozen Kingdom.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to the Frozen Kingdom before the night's over. I think they'll have to go the end with that one because that was an absolute dumpster fire of a film. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, that was Sydney Sweeney's big movie that she was hyping up about. She really wanted everyone to say it's like, oh, I've been working for this for years. I've been desperately trying to get this film made, and it's like, okay, well, it's out now, and it's certainly a thing that happened. So there you go. Well, we're going on for the Immaculate movie, so now I guess we can hit up on Roadhouse, the 2024 version of Roadhouse. So, we did a movie night for the first Roadhouse movie a few months back. It's still up on Rumble, still up on Odyssey, and I think it might still be up. No, I have to put it up on the other site. We'll deal with that one another time. But we did actually go back and watch this movie not too long ago, and it was actually a really, really fun film. I think Rob, you hadn't seen it when we saw it the first time, right?
Yeah, that's correct. That was the only time I've seen it. Was that movie night?
Yeah, so we actually got a good fun movie. Like I said, the film is very much an over the top schlocky like 1980s like B film. Like it's a movie that when you look at it from just like a common sense perspective, it's like there's a lot of things that don't really make sense when you try to throw in like realism and stuff like that. But it was a movie that was a reflection of the time, and for its time, it was a great movie. It's definitely a man's film when you look back on what it represented there. I mean, you had what's his face? God,
Patrick Swayze, Sam Elliott.
So yeah, Sam Elliott. That was the name I was trying to look for too. But yeah, you had all of these great character actors who were in this film. It's funny because I guess like the Main Street critics didn't like it, even though it was absolutely loved by the fans. The shocker that Robert and Siskel did not love this movie as much as a lot of other people did. But it's certainly what you would call a cult classic, and it's stuck in the hearts of a lot of people when it came out. So now you have to ask yourself, 35 years later, why exactly did Amazon think that a remake of this movie would be a good idea? Don't really can't answer that one for you. And to make it even more hilarious, they tried to, I guess, fix up everything so it can be represented in modern times. The problem was that, okay, so instead of being, a world famous bouncer, he's going to be a former MMA fighter. And then instead of being like in the sticks in like small town USA, we're going to move it to the Florida Keys. And then we're going to put Conor McGregor in there because he's popular. So this should definitely get us a theatrical release. And Amazon was like, nope, this is going straight to streaming. And everyone was apparently not too happy about that because they shot this film thinking that this is going to be a movie that was going to be released in movie theaters, only to be told at the very last minute after they were done completing the entire film that, yeah, we're probably not going to set this one in movie theaters. It'll just be on Amazon Prime, and then that'll be it. So
Just as a starter, this movie opening and I couldn't tell whether it was the Florida Keys or Key West. And to be fair, they're fairly close to each other.
yeah, very similar.
But there are very few locations, neighborhoods in America that have a connection to like homosexuality more than Key West. So I mean, I just thought that was very funny. You're having an issue with like people busting up your bar, and like you might as well. Why didn't you say Chelsea, New York City? Why didn't you say West Hollywood, California? You
Well,
know what I mean?
this is
Wasn't
the
that
problem, right?
obvious?
The setup for the original movie is that it was such a small town that you can buy that one guy, one criminal overlord, can essentially buy off all the cops, buy off all the, like, the important figures like the government, because it's such a nowhere town in like the middle of like God knows where. It's like you can buy, okay, one guy probably controls everything here. You can't really have that same setup when you're putting the same premise in a major city, even in a place like Key West, which is like, it's small, but it's not small enough to be like, oh yeah, one guy controls everything and all
With
the
major
cops are under his,
drugs. Major drugs come through
yeah,
there. Like,
all the cops are on his payroll. Like it doesn't quite work that way.
Yeah.
Well, my understanding is that in the original, it's supposed to be more of a rural area
Yeah.
than it is here. Here, it's very urban. So I don't know if it'll
Yeah,
make any sense. Even, I mean, Key West is a pretty, I guess, I want to say openly gay community where it's more like
would it be
San
funny if
Francisco.
like the bad guys were just like very effeminate homosexuals who were causing trouble? That probably be a
You
little
know
bit-
what? You know, maybe they
what do you
should
mean?
have.
It already has Billy Magnuson. He wasn't Flamer. I mean, come on.
Mhm.
No, I would have figured that maybe this would have been the movie that you put Justice Smith in, so you could have that.
I have a
Had
bunch
to
of
sing.
like sassy homosexuals getting into slap fights every single night.
Oh
Or
my
he could bring
gosh.
his menacing personality to the to the set.
And
Yeah,
I would just
exactly.
like to address a Rooftop Korean. They went to a Jewish resort in the Catskills. I don't know what Asians would be doing in the Catskills in the early 1960s, unless they're like Jewish converts. I mean, Asian converts to Judaism. So I'm just throwing that out there. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe they thought just using the name would have been enough, and you get kind of the idea for, people love Roadhouse, so we'll show them this, and we'll show a buff Jake Gyllenhaal, even though we've already seen something like that in Southpaw, which was not particularly good.
So,
But go
so
ahead.
so let me go ahead and address the elephant in the room before we go any further here, because obviously this was Conor McGregor's film debut here, and we'll talk a little bit more about how he's perceived in the movie. But I know a lot of people were saying like, oh yeah, he looked terrible here, like he's not a good acting. It's like, here's what you guys have to understand. Conor McGregor was not acting in this movie. He is an absolute coked out mess in real life. You guys know the story of Conor McGregor. He was a big star in the UFC about 10 years ago. He broke onto the scene. He became like the UFC's first true megastar in the world of MMA. He had the entire nation of Ireland on his back. And then at one point, he had a boxing crossover fight with Floyd Mayweather that paid him out over $100 million, right? So he got a whole windfall of cash just almost out of nowhere. And his life has pretty much just been a complete another mess like ever since. Like he's only won a couple of fights in the UFC since this whole thing happened several years ago. He's had infidelity issues, legal issues, and obviously his drug of choice is very obvious to everyone is cocaine. So here's one press interview that he did last week leading up to this, where people were like, oh yeah, okay, that cocaine is like beating him down right now. So just to pose this to what you guys saw in the movie, it'll make a lot more sense here.
Hi, Connor. I'm Claire Gallagher with the Daily Texan. What can you tell us about your acting debut? Obviously, it's your first experience.
Hard work, but we got it done. It's in the bank for life. You put something in the bank, maybe it's not going to be there for life. You might spend it. This baby is in there for life, and I'm ecstatic about that. I got into good, strong shape. I gave it my all. I was a little probably green at times, a bit rough around the edges, but for the character it worked. And onwards to the next one if there is a next one.
Yeah. Hi, Connor.
Yeah, so you can see there that there was a lot going on with Mr. McGregor.
So we're saying that he won't be the next Prime Minister of Ireland?
He could probably still be the Prime Minister of Ireland. I mean, it's not a high bar.
The old one just resigned. The Leo Varadkar, who was half Indian and openly gay. Irish.
Oh God, Ireland needs to get their shit. I mean, I follow quite a few people from Ireland, so I know that they've been dealing with an immigration issue and the whole Irish people are an actual race. You can't immigrate here from Africa and call yourself Irish. That's not what that is.
Well,
so I know they've been
Irish.
dealing with a lot of issues the last decade or so with, So I'm not.
I
I'm
heard
not
heard
really
a
surprised.
story not too long ago that apparently the number one name in Ireland right now is Muhammad, which is a
Yes,
pretty horrifying
I saw.
reality.
Yeah, I saw a video. I saw a video that had that. I think in Limerick or Cork, the most popular name is actually Muhammad. It's not like
Dude,
Sean or Patrick or.
just this is a quick little sidebar. When the Antichrist, the Mahdi, actually shows up, Europe is gonna get so smashed. Like they're done. They're absolutely fucking done. They got no chance. But outside of that, let's jump back into the movie here. This is another interview with Mr. Conor McGregor, and yeah, people seem to be pretty concerned about his current physical state. To watching this,
He was good to me, and I sometimes had to remind him. Like,
I landed one punch
once.
and he hit me with a door. Other than that, it was absolutely perfect.
That's true.
With amazing stunt team, Gareth Warden and Steve Brown, and they were phenomenal with us. They gave us
there's a lot of uncontrollable muscle movements going on here.
And we've
Take a
done good
muscle
job. For
relaxer,
me,
dude.
what was hard was it was time
Blinking a lot.
18 hours on set,
Yeah.
very little rest. It was strange to me, but you know, the fight scenes, I was happy to give my input and my oar. And Jake, as I said, is a consummate professional. We've done a good job.
I'm getting a workout.
All I can say is that this man is living the Hollywood lifestyle, and this is only his first
You know-
movie. So-
Look, we have no. This could be breaking news. We need to check if Conor McGregor went to the Situation Room in the White House a few months back, because that would mean we found the person that left the cocaine there.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah, I
we
don't think
found it.
McGregor's a big fan of the Biden, so I don't think you have to worry about that one.
Well, that's a more plausible explanation than having someone else just leave the
Yeah,
cocaine
right.
there in the secured part of the White House. I'm just saying.
There are people though that are on Twitter right now being like, "What? You guys have never had like a coke binge and been up all night and all day?" And I'm like, "No, I
he just
never
ta-
have."
He's just tired, bro. You never been tired before? It's like,
Like,
okay.
jeez.
There's
I've
always
had
that
a
one
lot of-
person who just has to defend somebody, like no matter what. It's like, dude, just open your eyes. Like it's right there.
No, I mean I've had maybe like 3 cokes in my as a binge, but that's as far
Yeah,
as I ever
that's not the cokes that he's doing. No, that dude that dude's doing lines and racks. Let's just put it that way. But
Hey,
like I
he's
said,
doing his best. He's doing his best to keep the economy of Peru going. Bless him. All right.
yeah, Peru, Colombia. There's a lot of South American
And he
markets.
gets the good shit that doesn't, it's not laced with fentanyl. so-
Yeah, exactly. So he doesn't have to like test his drugs or anything. Like, it's coming straight from the source.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, but probably.
Just
But,
putting it out.
Let's just talk about this thing here. So let's get to some aspects here of the film. Like I said, this is a modern interpretation of the film from 35 years ago. So this is Frankie. So Frankie, who has been obviously race swapped and gender swapped in this film. She's I believe that this actress here, Jessica
Jones.
something.
I think it's Jessica Jones. She used to be on The Daily Show. I kind of have a crush on her because
Oh my
she's.
God.
It's
It's Jessica
listen,
Williams, first of all. Jessica
Williams.
Jones
See,
is
I don't
a
even know her
Marvel
name.
character.
That's how great it is. I love what I call white black girls, and I'm just gonna leave it there. It's gonna.
Yeah, I mean, but no. So like, she's in the film playing like the bar manager role. It's like, hey, I need you to come save my bar because it's pretty rowdy out there. And it's like, I just felt like she was just completely and utterly miscast like in this role. Like, there's certain like spots where you can tell that okay, this is solely just for diversity, equity, and inclusion spot. So here we're going to give it up to this woman, and we'll cover our bases because apparently we got a low score according to GLAAD, so we need to boost those numbers up by booking her. But I don't think she ever embodied the role that was a pretty important one for the course of the movie here, which I don't.
Well, they could have just not. They could have race swapped, but not gender swapped, and then just had that character and the Jake Gyllenhaal character, recreate Brokeback Mountain if that's what they wanted.
No, I don't think that nobody wants that one.
But they're in
But-
Key West. It makes sense.
So the idea here is pretty straightforward. It's like, hey, you're a former MMA guy. I need you to help me protect my bar because the locals have been causing a lot of trouble here, and I need some extra muscle to help me out. So, Gyllenhaal, who basically plays a depressed MMA fighter, because during his last fight, I don't know if it was confirmed whether the person died or not, or was just like severely hurt, but he beat up his according to the movie, his friend pretty bad, and he's pretty much in a depressed state ever since. He even tried to kill himself at one point in the movie, and then decided he wasn't going to kill himself, but then couldn't restart his car in time before getting hit by the train. But hey, he survived because he's Dalton, man. So
that was a nod to The Quiet Man, when he kills a fighter and regrets it. So another Irish connection.
when a train's coming at you like that, at what point do you just like give up and get out of the car? Like it almost feels like you probably just better off just taking off and running at that point. So he comes in and he's like, okay, fine, I'll take a little bit of money and I'll help you guys out with your little your little cabana here. And this is quite literally the place. And he comes in like during the daytime, and there's like literally no one there. So it's not like he walks in and it's like bikers like outside or anything like that. It's like,
is the Roadhouse now the Enchanted Tiki Room? What is that?
Yes.
And how many references they make to it being a Western. Like the little girl who's the daughter of the guy who owns the bookshop is like, oh, this is what always happens in Westerns. And it's like, yeah, I get it. He's a drifter. They made and he said around these parts, like he incorporated aspects of even that into his speech where it was like, we get it, guys. You have no atmosphere and you did a terrible job at choosing a location. So you have to be like, oh, hey, it's a Western.
I'm just
and here's the other thing, just real quick. Here's the other thing, just real quick. Like, it's South Florida. There's plenty of actual shady biker bars in South Florida. There's a lot of them, actually. Like, you could have found a much better location. Like, you could have went to, like I said, South Florida, found like some kind of like shady Haitian bar. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a few like Jamaican ones down there that were pretty quite like. There's a whole lot of things that you could have done here. But I guess in the context of like this film, it's like, well, if we make it too authentic, it goes somewhere in South Florida where it's like really shady. Then the bad guys in this film are going to be black. And we don't want the bad guys in the film to be black guys because that's not friendly to diversity, equity, and inclusion. But it's like, if you want to be authentic to the location that you're in, or I don't know, maybe not film in Florida, just go somewhere else if this is what you guys wanted to do.
Well, you could have gone to like the Panhandle area, which is near what is it, Alabama,
Tallahassee.
That would have been closer to it. And you could have even, if you had the bar in Tallahassee, you could have had Ron DeSantis pop in there as one of the main thugs. So you see, they're all working for him in keeping that concentration camp for transgender kids over in the swamps going.
Oh boy. But so this film pretty much lives and breathes on two people in this whole film. You got Jake Gyllenhaal playing our protagonist, and he's pretty like stoic and like laid back. He doesn't have nearly the charisma that Patrick Swayze had in the first film, and I don't think that's by design. It's not saying that he couldn't have been that person if they wanted it to, but it seems like this was the direction of the character they wanted to go with in this film. And then outside of that, the only other person who really carries this film is Conor McGregor, because Conor comes in out of nowhere because the young son is screwing things up and he's not dealing with this bouncer in a timely manner. So Conor McGregor shows up a little bit into the film.
Naked.
Butt-ass naked, and trust me, it's actually him too. Like, it's not like a body double or anything like that, because his body is too disproportionate for it to be literally like anybody else. So it's like, it's him. He's walking down there. He just slept with some guy's wife, and then he's like walking down to like the middle of like this village, butt naked, steals the dude's clothes. He picks up the phone. And it's like, okay, I'll come down to the Florida. And I'll take care of this myself.
What was he going to present best costume design? Is that why he was naked?
No, he was just, I guess that's just to display kind of how nutso he is in the film.
The worst part of this scene though is when it cuts to him basically threatening an Italian guy for his clothes, like like T2 or something.
Yeah,
when Arnold goes into the biker bar, and then it cuts to the scene being on fire. Like all of these like tents and stuff on fire, and he's just leaving with now being fully clothed. It was like, okay, that was like, you just jump cut to, you missed an opportunity to actually have a cool scene or something.
because they thought that, oh well, I guess it'll be implied that the audience can figure out what exactly happened here, because he's wacky and crazy, so he's emotionally and mentally unstable, which is funny too, because in the context, like Connor, like he looks a lot bigger on screen than he actually is. Like in reality, he's only like what 5'7", and he fights on like 170.
I mean, he's buff, like he's a strong dude, but I could tell, like, damn, he's small, he's short.
Yeah, he's only like 5'7". Like I said, he fought at like 145 when he was actually like winning championships and good. And now he's like bloated up thanks to like all the cocaine and steroids. He's probably like 190 now. So yeah, so like I said, this is pretty much your entire dynamic for this film, because none of the other supporting characters like really truly work in this film. Like obviously there's an angle here like in the middle where they bring in, what's her name, Daniela McQuire or Melquire, whatever her name is.
I can't say her last name. Yeah, Micola. Yeah, I don't know how to say it.
I mean, I can't tell if she's like Portuguese or Brazilian or somewhere in between the two here, but she's supposed to be playing like, the doctor from the first movie, and she's supposed to be Gyllenhaal's love interest, even though that angle goes absolutely nowhere. Like she's just introduced in the scene, and you think that she's going to play a bigger role later on, but at no point do they have any kind of romantic chemistry like whatsoever, like as a couple. And I feel like towards the third act of this movie, they just kind of gave up on that angle even like mattering at the end of the day, because it wasn't like, oh, they attacked my girlfriend and now they must pay. Like he's enthralled with like the dad and his daughter who like runs a bookshop out in the middle of nowhere, like literally on like the side of the road. They run like a bookshop there, so he tries to protect them occasionally, even though he's only really there like 2 times throughout the entire movie. So it just didn't feel like this one worked very well. Then I already talked about the character of Frankie not playing up very well either. So this is douchebag son one over here, who's basically he's the big bad guy in town, even though nobody actually takes him seriously, which doesn't really help the context for the film, because the villain in the first Roadhouse movie was at least a formidable villain that actually like broke Dalton mentally. He like broke his like cool demeanor to this, like, okay, drove him to a point where he literally wanted to kill this guy, and at no point do you get that with this dude like whatsoever. Like he's introduced as a joke, and he just becomes like a bigger joke as the film goes on here.
The razor shave on open waters, and he's yelling at the guy to be loose with his wrist. It was just like, what the fuck?
That just sounds strange. That just sounds strange.
They took the leftovers from like season 1 of The White Lotus, because they have Billy Magnuson in here, and they have Lucas Gage, who works at the bar as well. Who like as soon as we meet him, he has a black eye. It's like, oh gee, I wonder what happened.
Yeah, I wonder why.
And I think that the love interest, the actress actually does a good job, because she's not given much to do. But I still actually I mostly believed her character, and she's really there to introduce her father. You know what I mean? As at least the part of the bought off police force. So, but yeah, it's hard to kind of see her as a genuine character. She's really there to sort of, I don't know.
What do you call it? Plot device?
Get to Jake Gyllenhaal's past, because that whole like, you don't want to be with me because I have this unresolved thing I'm dealing with,
I have daddy issues or something like that. I don't know. It was not very fully explained. But yeah, that's kind of like her whole get up here in the film, and it feels like they just kind of like wasted her as a character, because I mean, I think she can do a lot better here, but she never gets that opportunity. By the way, this is Bob. What's his name? I'm gonna make sure I get his name right. So Bob Macri, who does all those like if you guys seen his content on like YouTube, he does like the sports announcer voice, but he always says something like funny and fucked up about like betting. I'm pretty sure if I played his voice to you, you guys know exactly who it is. I actually met this dude once in Nashville a few years ago, I should say. And I mean, he seems like a pretty cool dude, but then again, I've heard people say not so nice things about him, so it's like, I don't know. I only met him very briefly, but he's in this film. And one of the things about this movie is that with Jake Gyllenhaal's character, it's like most of the time it's like he's almost not taking like any of the threats seriously like himself. So it's like when people go up to it and threaten him, it's like he'll try to like cool the scene with like a lot of like humor, or just plays it in a very nonchalant type of style. And then like I said, this guy like comes up to him, says, I got a gun, get in the car. And it's like, yeah, I'm not getting in the car, because it's like, well, if I break your fingers, you can't really shoot, so then what's good is the gun gonna do to me? And he just straight up breaks his fingers and leaves on the ground like crying and screaming like a little baby. So I just thought that was pretty funny. So
Yeah, I like it's not a bad scene. There's so much in this movie that I wish was done better.
Mhm.
It feels like they're kind of sleepwalking or just not. I mean, and then a lot of the fights, like when they're fighting, the CGI, like I don't know, you know what I'm talking about because you saw it, but when they're like fists landed, it was this
Yeah.
weird like CGI effect, and they've released an article about it, about the technique they were trying to use here to basically use both practical and computer generated like impact for the fights, and I didn't think it came off very well.
It's odd because, like I said, there's two things that happen here. One, as far as like the actual like UFC like stuff that they did, like apparently last year during one of the pay-per-views, they actually did shoot a couple of scenes that were live in front of the crowd in between like the pay-per-view. So the shot where he's like in the octagon with like the crowd around, that was actually from a live UFC show that they filmed like in between. So that part wasn't CGI, what I guess looks better on screen. But then when you're having like Connor here and he's fighting Jake in the movie, it's weird because you have one guy who can actually fight in real life trying to basically like stage like an actor. So it's like, how do you create like a fight chemistry between the two? Because Connor obviously has to like pull his punches so he doesn't actually knock out Jake throughout the course of this film, and you can tell that there was like a lot of I guess like hesitation during the fight scenes here, and that's why you tried to add in the CGI and it didn't exactly like click as well as it should have. So is that what you were talking about? It's like the fist fighting not looking quite right.
Yeah, no, that's definitely was my takeaway from it.
Yeah.
Well, now, were these regular punches or more MMA style? Because Jake
It was a
Gyllenhaal
little
did
bit
play
of
a
both.
boxer. I mean, he did play a boxer in movie Southpaw, which again
Mhm.
was not particularly good. So, I mean, he does have some knowledge of fighting. So I don't know.
It was a little bit of both that they kind of like
Yeah,
mixed
the
it
movie
into.
just I did not think was shot very well, or it was shot awkwardly. It's
Mm,
not. I mean, it's ugly. You know what I mean? Like
mm.
I thought there were a million ways that you could kind of like, you know, I don't know, introduce some better music, give me some neon lighting, give me something, give me atmosphere. Because I mean, Roadhouse was great because it was this over the top action movie where you were like, I can't believe they just did that. And there was really nothing like that in this movie. Where if you wanted to do this, you should have just made a like one off kind of like small movie instead of trying to like cash in on the name Roadhouse.
No, I mean, right now, looking at this part, I'm still waiting for like the birds to descend and start singing to me because I keep thinking the Enchanted Tiki Room every time I see this.
Yeah, like I said, to me, it just feels like I'm pretty sure they did Florida and the Florida Keys because maybe they got some kind of tax break that they didn't get like anywhere else. But it just didn't seem like this was the right location for like this story because, like I said, even like in this scene behind them, you see like the band playing, and it's never the same band. Like it's not like in the first Roadhouse movie where it's the same band every week, and then Dalton builds up like a relationship with like the blind guy. Like that completely removed. They just have like one band just come in like they'll play like a different song. Like one band tries to play like gospel music, the other one does like Western style music, but it's like it's a modern bar, and you know that like a modern audience wouldn't listen to like this style like of music. Like if it was like a Western bar or if it was like a redneck bar, maybe you can get away with that. But it's like you're not gonna play honky tonk in front of like a group of like 20 and 30-year-olds in like the Florida Keys. Like it's just not gonna work out the same way. So there was a lot of elements in putting this story together. Like I said, it's a hard film to try to modernize and try to make it like realistic. Like the one thing that worked about it is it's almost like watching a Chuck Norris movie. Like the entire premise is completely out of whack, but because the film commits to it in its time period, it actually worked. But trying to do a realistic take on it like this film does, it just doesn't click the same way. Because that this is a film that was made for the era that was actually made in back in the 1980s.
But Roadhouse, the original Roadhouse, is almost like the dialogue is delivered in this almost earnest, serious way, and yet the effects, the stunts they're all just kind of like over the top and insane. So like Patrick Swayze plays a pretty earnest guy. He's not cracking sarcastically. He doesn't, he doesn't say things that are like throwaway lines. There's purpose for almost everything that comes out of his mouth. Jake Gyllenhaal's character, I mean, this really was like, hey, we're gonna get some really good shots of your like physique. You know what I mean? Like when he's
Yeah.
beat up and he's like rolling around in bed from a bad dream, it's just like, okay, we get it. You worked out extensively to like get this body for this movie, but like the movie itself, the material is so lackluster, and I don't know. I don't know if he was sold on it by Doug Liman, but it's really embarrassing, that story that broke like a couple months ago where they apparently went to Jeff Bezos and he was like, yeah, this is not getting released in theaters.
Well, this I mean, you both saw this. Would you say that there's maybe too much winking at the camera? Like they know that this is so over the top, and they're trying to be overt about it, or
I didn't feel like that. I just thought it was bad. I just thought it was like, like usually I appreciate bad movies that take that route, that like they know what they are. They know they're like self-serious. They know it's kind of ridiculous. I usually enjoy stuff like that. That's why I was open to this movie, but I really just kind of felt like there wasn't a lot of material here for them to kind of, and it was a 2-hour movie. I was surprised that like this is a 2-hour movie that they stretched this material out to, because again, it has very little in common with the original movie.
No. And very, very loose. And I did love this scene here towards the end. I loved it for obviously the wrong reasons. There's a fight here where at first McGregor and Gyllenhaal are like fighting on like the speedboat, and then like Gyllenhaal somehow jumps from the speedboat onto the bigger boat, and as a result McGregor crashes like in the middle of like the ocean, right? And so they speed off onto the roadhouse here, where they bring it back to him and like the big boss, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere McGregor just comes back and drives a car into the building. It's like, didn't he just get knocked into the water like 10 minutes ago? It's like, how did he get back to land, steal a car, and then drive it right back into the building, not even knowing if he was actually in there?
There's a simple answer for that, and I don't need to tell you what it is.
Yeah, because I was thinking of it as you were talking about Immaculate. So yeah, just
exactly.
It doesn't. Here's the thing: the movie has to sell you on what it's portraying, and if it doesn't do that, it's just like, okay, it's. Nobody makes a movie intending for it to be bad. I say that out loud, and yet sometimes I wonder if that's true.
Well, maybe because Roadhouse has that reputation of being so over the top and kind of outlandish. They thought that
Patrick Swayze kicks a guy's head off of his fucking shoulders, like when he's riding a motorcycle. I cannot tell you how amazing that scene was, and yet how crazy.
No, but my thinking is that maybe they thought that that's what they could do. That because the first one, the original, is so over the top and people love it for being so over the top, they thought that they could do something similar here and just maybe double down on it, and people would embrace it the same way. It doesn't look like they have. At least you guys who've seen both versions have not.
But this is the big problem with a lot of these films, because at the end of the day, nobody really asked for this movie. Like, nobody wanted Hollywood to remake Roadhouse. It's a film that didn't require a remake. So then you try to do it for quote unquote modern audiences, and it wasn't nearly as obnoxious, like woke wise. Like, there wasn't like anything that you would consider woke outside of some of the casting decisions, obviously, but just in the context of trying to modernize a classic that, like I said, only works for its time period, you just end up missing a lot of what made that movie actually good in the first place, and it just doesn't click like the same way at all. And but another thing that was funny to me, apparently getting stabbed, it's like nothing in this universe, because people get stabbed like horrifically all the time, like in this film. It's like, oh, it's just a flesh room. I'll just patch it up and like go back to work.
That's like Monty Python there when they're facing off. I guess was it
because Gyllenhaal gets like stabbed in the side twice. Thinking then in the same wound he gets stabbed. And it's like, I'll just patch back up. I'll be fine. It's like no one's worried about infections or like organ damage or internal bleeding or anything like that. Like, it's fine, I'm sure.
But again, it just seems like they know the original was over the top, and so they figured that they could also go over the top with this, and that no one would call them on it because they're supposed to embrace kind of the outlandishness of everything here.
Yeah.
But you still need to ground your film in characters that you like, and I don't know about care about, but at least like and can find entertaining. I don't know if this is the case in this version versus the original. Well, I mean, I know people who love the original and embrace it because it is just kind of out there and really wild. But at least they're not trying to be too smart with the material. Here it looks like they're trying to be too smart with the material and think that they know better and can just kind of coast on it being really over the top and outrageous. I don't know, but this is the way it's sounding to me as someone completely outside both versions.
I think they could have done a much better job with Jake Gyllenhaal's character because he's supposed to be a guy with a haunted past. He's somebody that that's kind of why he's here and why he's sort of trying to still work this thing out of what happened in his past. And they do so much work with the daughter of the bookshop and talking about westerns and and at the very end it's like, well, you're not a bad guy, and he's supposed to be an anti-hero drifter kind of character, and yet there's like no edge to him. He's not like, you never feel like he's gonna do anything out of character or like, and so they play that weird character line of like, he's a good guy but he's an anti-hero, and yet they don't flesh out his character except that, oh, he has a haunted past and he won't let the love interest get too close, and she heals people and he hurts people, and like, it's just very basic kind of terrible, you know what I mean? Like, this is, and that's why I'm not trying to be too hard on it, but like when you add all this shit up, it's like, this is not good. I mean, there's some people that might enjoy the over the top qualities of like some of the action scenes or the violence or whatever, but it's very threadbare here. Not real, not a whole lot to sink your teeth into.
Yeah, like I said, this is it's a fun movie. Like, I'm not gonna go too hard on it, but like I said, it's just a movie that I just don't think really needed to be made. And maybe if it was under a different name, things could have been a lot better. You could have actually, like, played up some aspects of the films that did work. But I think if it wasn't for McGregor's over the top performance and Jake Gyllenhaal trying to carry the film as best as he can, this probably be a much worse movie for me. I honestly, I'd probably give this somewhere like a 2.5 out of 5. Like, this is kind of where I'm sitting in with this film. Like, if maybe if they had a bit more chemistry with some of the supporting cast. I just think that a lot of supporting characters in this film just pretty, like, not great. Like, I think they just kind of dropped the ball on a lot of other guys here. But like I said, you get a coked up Conor McGregor and a busted up Jake Gyllenhaal, and that's pretty much what you're gonna get out of 2 hours of this movie. So like I said, it's a 2.5 for me. Rob.
Sorry, my Wi-Fi loves to drop at the perfect time. Yeah, I probably go a little bit lower. I probably a 2 out of 5. Just because, like, for instance, I just saw like Arthur the King. That was a movie I gave 2.5 out of 5. I'd probably say that's a little bit better than this. But yeah, no, it's, again, like, if you have 2 hours to kill and you just want a kind of like mindless action movie, like something to kill time, yeah, just check it out, see what you think. But I just thought it could have been a lot better, especially knowing you're going to remake Roadhouse and this is the result. It's disappointing, but again, just as its own movie, it's, I'm sure people will get enjoyment out of it.
Well, I
Let
mean, as
me.
someone, I'm sorry, just real quick, just someone who's never seen either. It's Roadhouse, the original, so one that's really loved by a lot of people and embraced
Mhm.
by a lot of people. Trying to remake it or just trying to coast by on name recognition alone, I don't know if you will get fans of the original to really embrace this one to the degree that they embrace the original. Only because the original was, like Jacob said, a product of its time, something that knew what it was. It didn't pretend to be anything else. Here, maybe they are trying to pretend to be something more by giving him that haunted past, by trying to give him this backstory and try to make it a little more about redemption. I don't know if that's the case, but I don't know if it would work. But you guys have seen both versions, so you both would know better.
So I'll ask you this here, Rob, and this will be the last question on this one. What do you think about the prospects of Conor McGregor being in another a movie after this one? Do you think that he's one and done? If he can somehow manage to not die from cocaine or overdose in the next couple of years, do you think he has another film left in? Is there any potential him as an actor, or what do you think?
I mean, anything's possible. I think that he could like do something similar to this. You know what I mean? If he's gonna be like a villain in like a Jason Statham movie. But it would be more like the henchman, not like the lead bad guy, But yeah, I could totally see that. But like it's what I was saying earlier in the chat is that it reminds me literally of when I don't remember if it was Goldberg or who the fuck it was, but some wrestler was like in the third Universal Soldier movie. And I have to go back. I think it was a WCW wrestler, but that's what it reminds me of. It's just like, okay, we get it. You're being given a part because you're better known than an actor would be in the same role. So yeah, I think that he could find a niche for himself, especially if he doesn't take, and it doesn't seem like he takes himself too seriously. So that always gives you opportunities in Hollywood.
Fair enough. Then with that said, we'll go ahead and go to our final film of the night here. And it is Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. And man, this was a movie that let's kind of rewind here, because I've gotten some pushback about this, because the more I've been thinking about this, I'm starting to like, is this actually worse than the 2016 Ghostbusters movie? Now, first of all, has everyone here seen this movie that I'm about to talk about here?
I saw Frozen Empire. I did not see the 2016 Ghostbusters. I refuse.
Okay, yeah,
you're not missing much. Yeah, I've seen both.
So I remember going back and watching the 2016 movie, and I was like, it didn't really upset me until it got to the second half, where everything just completely fell apart. And then when everything fell apart, the first time I watched it, it was like a 2 out of 5 for me. And I think after a little bit, it lowered a little bit after that. I think I give it like a 1.5 out of 5. Like, the comedy just didn't work. Like, he had a bunch of Saturday Night Live writers like writing the whole thing. Comedy wise, it didn't work. As a Ghostbusters movie, it didn't work. It was just a complete abomination of like everything involved here. So that movie was so bad. Fast forward about 5 years, and Jason Reitman had to come in and essentially save the entire franchise by pretending that movie never existed. So he made Afterlife a direct sequel to Ghostbusters 2, which is how we got that film. He moved everything out to Oklahoma, Aurora, Oklahoma at the time period, and it was a nice change of pace from what we had seen from Ghostbusters movies beforehand, because like the scenery was much different, so we got a lot different take of Ghostbusters out of it as a result. But then it's like, okay, well, let's go do another one. And I'm like, well, I mean, what more can you do in another Ghostbusters movie you hadn't already did? It's like, you did the nostalgia bait, you did the member berries, you did the, hey, let's do a tribute to Harold Ramis and all this stuff. And it's like, oh, but we got these new kids here now. We got the new generation who's going to take over Ghostbusters for the foreseeable future. At least that's what they think. And going into this, I was like, okay, what could they possibly do in this film that's going to actually make anything interesting or good? And I feel like this film absolutely dropped the ball on all aspects. There's only two things really going for this movie when you look at it from a film perspective. It's like, they still have to placate to like the Ghostbusters fans who are in their 40s and their 50s, who are like, oh, I still remember Ghostbusters from my childhood, and I have to go see Bill Murray for the 18th time, and Dan Aykroyd, even though he's so old and busted up, he can't even do a scene without sitting in a chair anymore, which should let you know that this thing is probably over. Like, Ernie Hudson, I should say, is the only one who looks like he's aged gracefully over the course of the last few years. But that's what you have there. You gotta pay fan service to the old Ghostbusters fans. And then on the other side, it's like, well, we gotta build up for the new Ghostbusters fans, because this girl, what's her name, Grace McKenna, it's like she's gonna be the future of this franchise, so we have to like build her up and put storylines based on her, and they think that she's gonna be the future, which is like, so what you're telling me is that you're going to do member berries on one side, then on the other side, you're going to try to build this into a young adult genre. Like, we're bringing young adult back after 10 years. Didn't we already proven that failed a decade ago when Divergence completely fell on his face and died? It's like, why are we doing this all over again? So I'll go ahead and start with you, Rob. But what did you think of, I guess, the premise of this idea of doing yet another Ghostbusters movie here in 2024?
Well, I there's a lot of these movies I grew up with in that are from the 80s that I kind of look back on negatively.
Mhm.
I try not to be too hard on something like Ghostbusters because I mean, as a kid, I didn't even know that they were comedies. You know, like I was like, okay, they're fighting ghosts, like whatever. But it's like, they're it the cast seems like they're having a great time. I think that that's why it translates to audiences loving those movies. And I did not see the first installment of this one, which I guess is technically the third Ghostbusters movie, if we're ignoring the 2016 version. So I don't really know these characters. I was kind of coming in blind, but right from the start, I definitely got the impression that the girl, played I, by Grace McKenna, that's her name, was supposed to be like brilliant and just so unbelievably scientifically gifted and just like even being put on the bench or whatever because like City Hall is shaking their finger at the Ghostbusters. It's like, oh, she's super smart and she's super capable and women can be in STEM. I'm trying not to see this. That's so
STEM.
glaring at
Remember
me.
STEM?
So yeah, that's the premise was just kind of like, okay, it's a family and there's sex jokes. There's like it felt it was trying very hard to be funny. The kids all talk sarcastically and through a million layers of irony. It was just like it felt like it didn't know what it wanted to be.
Yep. And it felt like I knew exactly what they wanted, what they were trying to do. They knew that they had essentially, at least they thought they had two different fan bases here. The old school Ghostbusters fans who are going to do, their little review of the film is like the films from the past. Like they're thinking, oh no, if we don't do a good Ghostbusters fan service, then Red Letter Media is going to tear us apart. So it's like we have to satisfy that fan base. Then at the other side, it's like, oh, but we got all these kids, and well, we need to build to the newer audience. So they're trying to satisfy two different fan bases, and you end up satisfying no one at the same time. So
I question your premise insofar as I can't imagine that they're actual fans of the new cast, like the daughter
Stranger Things.
Phoebe.
People who watch Stranger Things, and
Well,
here's the thing: I know at least that one kid, Finn Wolfhard, or whatever his fucking name is.
yes.
He's from Stranger Things. I guarantee you that fan base is an entire collection of people who do not understand that the thing they love was literally made better more times over than they can comprehend before they were even fucking born. Stranger
Yeah.
Things is based on Ghostbusters, John Carpenter, Steven Spielberg, those 1980s milieu of horror
But
sci-fi, and they think that what they like is somehow original.
well, come on. I mean, this is the reason that was it Kate Bush is in the Hall of Fame now because Running Up That Hill became a big hit. And I'm
Mhm.
going, yeah. I mean, where have you guys been? But I meant the actual characters. Who here really cared about them? I barely remembered the character of Lucky, who's now also in New York, with Podcast, who also is in New York and who left Dorklahoma, which is actually a part that I actually thought was kind of clever. But excuse me, uh, all these characters, I don't know anyone who's like a big fan and said, "Oh, I want to see more movies centered around Phoebe, this Mary Sue, who is just perfect and brilliant." Like really, I want to see the relationship between the mom and Paul Rudd. That's something that I just have so much vested interest in, and I want to see more of the little Stay Puffed marshmallow beings because they're so cute and adorable and
fan
wonderful.
service.
Okay,
It's
but
like,
that you didn't feel like that was like a Despicable Me thing. Like it's just such an annoying, cutesy, cloying, just obvious trope. Oh, hey, you guys, remember Ghostbusters 2?
well,
It's like,
no,
okay.
actually, it made me think more of Men in Black 2, where we needed was it the aliens that are working in the office, and we needed
Mhm.
more of them. So it's like, yeah, it's fine. I didn't have an issue with it in Afterlife because it made sense in that part when when Paul Rudd goes to Walmart
Mhm.
and they're selling Stay marshmallows, so having them kind of emerge and bake themselves, okay, I kind of got that. But here, why are they here other than one of those, what do you call them, member berries? Like, oh, look, they're so cute and they're adorable. They weren't even, I mean, there's only one. There's only one Stay Puffed Marshmallow Man in the first movie, and he was not cute. Oh, I
Wait,
don't
he's not from the second? I thought the Marshmallow Man was the second movie.
No,
No.
Marshmallow Man is the original movie. The second movie was the Statue of Liberty.
This is how long it's been since I've seen the original Ghostbusters movies.
Well,
Yeah.
no, the I saw the original when the theaters reopened and there weren't any other movies, so they released that one. And all I remember is, boy, this is longer than I remember seeing it, because I never saw Ghostbusters 2, and if I did, I really don't remember it. But it's like there's no point. They were just there to kind of look cute, and they're there too often. And again, with the characters, I don't know anyone who's really that invested in the character of the daughter or the son, Phoebe and Trevor, or like, oh yes,
Well,
I'm glad they're back.
So here's the dynamic with this family, which is just annoying now because Paul Rudd is basically just playing Ant-Man in a different movie that's not called Ant-Man at this point. That's his whole character. Like, nothing's changed from him. The mom is just kind of like a miserable person who you wonder is why she's even still in this movie at this point, because she serves no use to the plot like whatsoever. Like, you can remove her from the film entirely and it changes absolutely nothing. Then you have Kate here, okay, Phoebe in the film, who I guess is now like a new lesbian necrophiliac super genius now. And then, of course, you have the older brother, who's also completely useless and meaningless to the plot.
Totally.
This character, his whole purpose of the entire film is that he has a couple of battles with Slimer, who's just eating up all the junk food in the attic. He gets slimed a couple of times. Well, Cheetos, Oreos, cheese. There's a whole bunch of junk food in that whole place.
The problem with Trevor is that there was just kind of, I guess, maybe a running gag of, oh, I'm an adult now, you can't tell me what to do, and just fighting Slimer, and that was it. That's his whole character. He had nothing else to do with whatever plot was in this movie.
Camille Namgiani in this fucking movie.
Yes.
Holy shit. And then he's literally part of the plot. I was like,
and a major part of the plot at that.
Yeah.
I was seriously just like, this is the laziest fucking like use of a character who you can't even take seriously, because everything out of his mouth is irony or sarcasm, and it's like, oh, he's the key to defeating I hate you so much.
But you do get those what is it, diversity, equity, and inclusion points for best picture consideration, because you've got minority.
Hey Rick, did you laugh when he was coming down the fire pole in armor?
No.
Did you laugh at that?
Hey, Rob, I got one for you. Did you laugh? Like, at all?
No. But the fucking like annoying ass boomers that were sitting around me were. So I was just extra.
Well, look, with Kumail Nanjiani, like, you're introducing this great element of the fire starter, fire eater, fire marshal Bill, whatever,
Fire Emblem,
like Fire Nation. I mean, weren't they in The Last Airbender? So it wasn't Dev Patel, Fire Nation.
I've never seen it, but yeah, I know enough about it that I can be like, yeah, there's fire people.
Like, we're getting this great new element, but there's no introduction. It's like, we almost take it at his word. I wish that instead of having Kumail Nanjiani, you would have hired an actual Indian actress, or I would have thought maybe Shoresh Agdashlu, even though she's Persian, would have been much better, because at least she could have said, I'm from a long line and I can provide proof. He's just there to introduce the device, and then they bring him in to do the fire marshal, the fire starter, whatever. Why do we need him? Why? He's supposed to be funny, and I guess he tries, but how is this any different from him in Eternals? How is
but
this
even
any
in
different?
this is my big problem, because even with the plot, right, it's a joke. The whole thing about like, oh, didn't your grandmother tell you? It's like, oh, well, I wasn't listening. It's just like, even aspects of the like plot you're supposed to take seriously, it's a joke. They can't resist the urge just to be like, oh, I'm an idiot.
I didn't know that my grandma had this sex room, which I know wasn't a sex room, but it was like,
This is a big problem with Hollywood, and this is why I compare it to the 2016 Ghostbusters movie, is because that was written by Saturday Night Live writers who are under the guise that every single like line has to have some kind of like a joke attached to it, right? Because that's how they do it on their little Saturday night show. The reason why the first Ghostbusters movie was funny was because it was so well written. The comedy was actually witty. They didn't have to like sit there and be like, oh, here's the punchline, now let's wait for the audience to laugh when we get to the next line and the next joke. Like the dialogue was just actually good. It was actually like clever when Bill Murray, back when he actually still cared about acting, when he was in the movie, and his dialogue was actually good, right? But in this, like I said, in this movie, they're just like everything is crafted around a punchline and a laugh that just never comes, and it's just the same thing over. And this is what I felt like watching 2016's Ghostbusters. It was the exact same premise, but this is the problem with Hollywood in general. Like they're just not funny. Like Hollywood doesn't know how to be funny anymore. Like we talked about this a while ago. It's like the last generally funny comedy I can think of was probably Tag, and that was like 2018. Like I want to say that was like the last like well-crafted comedy I can remember. It's like we're in this era now where it's like, oh, well, we don't want to do these type of jokes because they might offend people, so we got to find new ways to be funny. When their idea of being funny, it's like, oh, let's just go after like white people. And
Here's the thing: if you did that, if you actually offended people, you would actually succeed at people seeing your movie. It would generate more buzz. It would generate more traffic if you actually got under people's skin. But the thing is, here's the thing. What I've realized is this is what they say now, instead of actually trying to gain an audience or get people's attention. They're like, we're afraid of offending people, so this is what we're doing instead. So less people will go see your movie, so that you have this talking point that you're somehow progressive, somehow pushing the ball forward by not offending people. I'm sorry, I would rather that you offended people. I'm calling your bluff.
Well, I mean, it's not. I mean, I can't really answer much to that. But when I was looking over my notes, like I wrote literally, Trevor, adult with literally nothing to do in film but chase Slimer. That was it. That's his whole thing. He disappeared for long stretches of the film, and it didn't even affect whatever story they were telling.
This is another problem with the movie, and it's a big one. There are far too many characters in this movie, and barely any of them have any importance to the plot like whatsoever, because you have to bring back the original Ghostbusters because they have to be in this movie together, which I find it very ironic to me that these guys refuse to come together and make a movie even though they had like 25-year period to do so when Harold Ramis was actually alive, but now all of a sudden they're coming back and they're doing these dog crap movies, the last two. But like I said, that there's way too many characters. No one cares about the black science girl with the ghost lab.
She came
Webb?
from
Madam Web girl, you mean?
Yeah, Madam Web
she
girl.
came from Oklahoma. She was the love interest.
She should have stayed in Oklahoma.
Yeah, you see, no, since Rob didn't see it, both Phoebe's little friend, the little male friend,
Yeah.
and Lucky, the girl in the lab, they're both from the first film, and they were both from Oklahoma. Now they're here for no reason other than, oh, we need to tie back to them. Now you could have cut them out completely, or you could have created original characters to not have them there.
You didn't even need the original Ghostbusters in this movie. Like, why are they still here? Like,
they literally are there for expositional dialogue. Like the Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray is barely in this fucking movie, and he was sold in the trailer as like he's Pete Venkman's coming back kind of thing, and it was like he's barely in this fucking.
He's
movie.
in it for like one scene, and that's really what his whole
the ending scene, like what's supposed to be the climax.
No, I'm talking about the scene with like him and Numani where they were discovering his superpower, which is that I could control fire, which means that I could beat this demon.
I think I put that down in my notes also. The interview, it's not funny but pointless when he's doing that. Is that a throwback to the very first Ghostbusters where he's kind of doing that kind of shtick, and he's trying to convince people that he has some sort of abilities to read minds.
I guess on the one aspect you can look at it to be like, oh well, the first Ghostbusters had the key makers, so he's just like the modern day key makers, and it's like, sure, I guess, but like I said, I just don't like him as an actor. He's not funny in any. Honestly, when was the last time you've seen him in a film where you've actually laughed? Like I remember a few bad movies that he's been in. We talked about Eternals. We talked about Stuber, which is another horrific comedy that he was in. The Lovebirds, which is another like it was like when they came out during the pandemic. That was terrible. Like he's not funny, but he keeps getting work in Hollywood.
The only time I might have laughed at with Kumail Nanjiani in there was some early episodes of Franklin and Bash, and that's something that I'm now ashamed to admit that I actually watched.
Honestly, he's best known. I know him best as like a
Big Sick?
Portlandia character, which he's
Oh,
very passive aggressive and tongue in cheek, and it's like that's what he's good at. Because, and listen, whatever. There's a lot of different talents out there and skill sets, but I have seen this very weird thing with certain comedians who do not have another mode to pivot to. Fred Armisen is incredibly talented, but he is like this, where the animosity and like passive aggressiveness that he has in his character is really how he feels towards people. And so it's just it's a form of just, but that's all I get from Kumail Nanjiani is all like just bitterness, passive aggressiveness, this kind of like angry feeling. And he's not funny. He's kind of an annoying pest in everything he turns up in.
Bag of douche, I think is the correct term to use for him. And like I said, back like a few years ago, and I'm talking about decades now, but the whole idea of like when you had actual comedians, like people who actually did stand-up comedy, and you put them in movies like this, the whole idea is that, we don't really have to like script their material word by word. Like if we just put them in the right environment and put them with the right chemistry of people, like we can get funny stuff out of them, right? So that's why you would have people like Chris Tucker or Dave Chappelle or Cat Williams, even in that aspect, guys like that could be in a movie and be like, no, let's just roll the cameras and see what magic we can make. Because maybe there's a line that they can like come up with that would be very funny. We'll put in like in the trailer, something memorable. And we're not doing that anymore because we don't have actual comedians in comedy movies now. We have actors who are trying to be comedic, and it just simply doesn't work. So we're not creating those moments that we used to do back in like the 80s and the 90s anymore, because we are actually hiring real comedians to be in these films. So if you're not going to do that, then why even try to be a comedy film essentially at this point? It feels like they're a comedy because they feel like, well, the first one kind of was funny, so we have to keep doing that. It's like, you can go in another direction, and you probably should.
Well, I thought it was going to be with Nanjiani. I thought it was going to just be kind of like a cameo. He's going to introduce the thing, be in the movie, and then that's it. I was surprised that they kept having to go back to him, and that he's now tied into grander mythos of Ghostbusters and the flamethrowers or whatever it was. I'm not even going to bother remembering what that mystical power was. So why was he needed there? And you get this sort of grand idea of, oh, he's the flamethrower, and he it comes from a long line that's been fighting the Demon King, but it's just thrown in there, mentioned, and I there's no buildup. There's no buildup to it.
No, not at all. And so then you had this whole angle of the story too, with Phoebe and her ghost lesbian lover. Now it's funny because apparently I upset some people on the Bounding site today, because it's like, oh well, you gave that Kirsten Stewart movie a better rating than this one. How dare you? It's like,
it was a better movie,
and this movie sucks. that's why I give. But not only that, just on the face value, it's like, the reason why I went easier on that film, because we knew that it was a lesbian movie going into it. Like it was front loaded, it was advertised. It wasn't like they subverted us. I didn't know this movie was about lesbians. Like we knew what the film was going into this one. Like they set up her character, and I guess because she's supposed to be playing Harold Williams' granddaughter, and this one she's like a central figure in the film now. But she's going through her own teenage phase. Everyone has to go through a teenage phase. Well, she's rebellious. And she's not listening to her mom, and she goes out here to play chess in the middle of New York City at night by herself, which all 15-year-old girls should do, especially in current day New York, where people can literally push you in front of a train and get out of jail like an hour later. It's just the way that it works now. But she's sitting here talking to like this ghost, and at first you think that, okay, well, maybe she's found a friend here, someone she can relate with. And then as the story goes on, it's like, oh, well, she's more than a friend, but we're not going to allude to that because, she's still a minor. So we don't want to say that we're pushing people towards queer relationships, but it's exactly what you guys are trying to do here.
Well, I was a little confused, and maybe you guys can explain this to me. When we hear, was it Melanie, she's the ghost. She said that she died in, I thought she said a factory fire. So I was thinking, like, did she die in like the Triangle Fire in New York? But because if that happened, then she would have been much older. She would have been like well over 100 years old. But she struck me as too contemporary, like too, I want to say 80s style, like almost, not want to say Gen X style
The
sarcasm.
way she talked was in this sarcastic kind of like she's the same generation, the same age as the, what's
The
her face?
originals. But so it just didn't to make any sense to
Well,
me.
even if she died any like older, then there'll be like an implication of, okay, exactly how old are you, and you're trying to get with this 15-year-old girl. Like, I don't know if that's the message that we're trying to get here with this film either.
When she's able to separate herself, already a creepy concept. I know they called it
Which was stupid.
walking?
Can I just rant about this just for a second?
Yes,
It's
go ahead.
stupid. Don't tell me that the reason why she did that. It's like, oh, because she's a teenager, she's supposed to make dumb mistakes. Like, no, when you go out of your way to tell me that this kid is basically like a world-renowned genius, this is the way that they set up her character. You can't then turn around and do something that's absolutely asinine and moronic and be like, oh, well, she only did it because she's 15. It's like, no, you clearly stated that she's way smarter than everybody else. So she, even in the context of her character, she would never do something that dumb. Be like, oh yeah, let me remove my soul from my body just so conveniently the villain of this film can possess me and force me to release him from his cage.
I think they referred to it as a skin, or was it a ghost walking or skin walking or something? I called it Caspering because I all I could think of was Casper. Like, is she going that route? And why is she doing this? That is really dumb.
So she got catfished by a 3,000-year-old like mummy creature, basically.
Yeah.
By the way, the whole mythos, the whole like thing with the bad guy is like straight from the Mummy.
Yeah, straight
Oh,
up.
hey, we tried to kill you, but we couldn't, and now you're back to kill all of us.
But your weakness is fire for some weird reason. It's just weird how you were able to take over all of these, conquer all of these people, but no one thought, hey, if we just have an open flame, then we can beat this thing.
What I thought about Phoebe in the very beginning of the movie is like, I don't like you. I don't like you as a character.
Mm-hmm.
I think I put down bratty bitch, and it's a terrible thing to
scowl.
She's a little bit of
scowl across her face the whole fucking movie.
She's a little bit of a twat. Let's just put it that way.
Wow. I know it's a terrible thing to refer to a 15-year-old that way, but it's like she thinks that she keeps telling people that she's smarter. It's like, oh no, I'm gonna go out there. I can do this. And oh, you're not letting me go out there and fight ghosts because I'm 15. Oh, that's an eternity. How dare you? And you keep proving you make dumb decisions. You go down there to that restaurant without telling anyone. You separate your body from your spirit. You keep doing this, but you keep telling me that you're a genius and we're supposed to listen to you. No, I'm not listening to a 15-year-old. I don't care if you're the, I guess, illegitimate granddaughter of Egon Spengler, because you're the daughter, but you still have the the mother's maiden name. I don't know.
Mhm.
I'm gonna stick by
And a
that.
few people told me too, like they hated the way that she talked to her mother throughout the course of the film too, and like the dialogue that they had together. But to be fair, the mother's really no better in this context, like either. Like the only likable person in this entire family is Paul Rudd, and he's technically not even a member of their family. So
He's
it's
the
like
step teacher.
exactly. So it's like the whole family is just like a bunch of like narcissists that are just completely unlikable, and these are your protagonists. So if you remove Paul Rudd from the equation altogether, you have an even worse movie than what you already have here, which was already not good to begin with. That's because you guys don't know how to write characters that are likable, let alone memorable.
And I had to piece this together myself with the whole like they're not their parents. You know, the whole like you don't talk to her that way when she's being mouthy towards Carrie Coon. It's like, oh, that's not
Yeah.
my mom. Okay. So, you know, there are little things like that where it's just like, okay. Because he's trying to incorporate his what's right for him to do and what's right for him, or you know, in terms of the kids and you know what's his place. And it's just like, oh God, we're having that conversation.
Yes, but why couldn't they just have married in the interim and then he's still struggling to find his place? Why do we
Strong,
need to?
independent woman, something like that.
Yeah, but well, she didn't strike me as a strong, independent woman because she just let her daughter do what
Hey, it's Carrie Coon. She can do whatever she wants. Okay.
Can she though?
I don't know. She was in Gone Girl. I like her, but yeah, she's.
But it wasn't. It felt like she didn't really want to be there, and I don't mean her in the movie. I mean the character. I mean, it would have just been better to have stayed in Oklahoma, or maybe even just go. Look, you could take the characters to New York and say, "Oh, we're going to settle something with the estate, or there is some sort of issue that we need to go and sign some papers to, turn the building over officially to someone." I mean, they could have found a way. No, they have them move there, and then they have to take two other characters from Oklahoma who really have no purpose to be there, and you're just adding them there. Plus, you throw in like one or two new characters who really have very, very little purpose, like that kind of British guy who was there and gets his hand frozen. It's like, who are you? What are you doing here?
Carrie Coon is probably less fuckable in this movie than Elizabeth Moss was in the was an Invisible Man. So yeah, that's just.
Oh, she's
Yeah,
the sister that gets slashed, or like.
Oh yeah, well she got. Oh God, I forgot
Such
all
a bad
about that
movie.
scene. I forgot all about that
So
scene.
bad.
Okay, I actually like that Invisible Man. I'm the minority here.
Yeah, you're definitely the minority.
What's wrong with you? You've actually seen the original Invisible Man, and yet
Yes,
you're
yes,
just
I have.
okay. So how is that whatever? Not the place for the conversation, but like how is that not a blasphemy compared to just what the original? Listen. By the way, the original Invisible Man is one of the most impressive movies ever made when it comes to the practical effects that they use. I mean, it's incredible. Like you watch that and you understand how movies are made to just a small degree. It'll blow you away.
It helps when you have Claude Rains' voice.
Yeah.
All right, but that's another conversation for another day.
Yeah. Back here to the ghost lesbian. So the whole point of this entire movie is the fact that in this like brass ball, because apparently you can just capture demons in brass. There's this entity that basically freezes people to death. They said, oh, he uses the power of fear to freeze his enemy. He literally scares them to death. It's like, just say the demon has ice powers. Like, just make it a lot more simple than whatever you guys are trying to like create here. The demon has ice powers, and he freezes quite literally the entire city of New York. And in the old Ghostbusters headquarters, apparently they never once cleaned out their ghost enchantment. So like every single ghost that they've ever captured in the entire history of Ghostbusters is in there. And it's like, oh, well, if we let him get the trap, then he's gonna have control of every single ghost we've ever created. And this could be bad. And you think that, oh, so they're gonna like nostalgia bait and bring back some of the old ghosts from like the previous movies. And it's like, no, you don't see any of them. They're just kind of
Slimer. Slimer's the only one because he's the only
one you could sell toys with. That's
well, yeah, I was gonna say he's the commercial product. He's like,
and he was in the cartoon, which they also mention or feature as part of this. And so basically, am I to understand that the villain is really the demonic version of Elsa from Frozen?
Hmm.
Sure.
Or Sub-Zero, maybe. I mean, you can go with that too. Yeah, so then here you have the senior citizens, and they're back in their Ghostbusters uniforms, and I'm pretty sure that the 40-year-old marks love this because it's like, oh my god, they're in their suits and they're still alive, and isn't this great? And what's her face here? Annie
Annie
Potts,
Potts.
Annie
she's
Potts.
still alive, so it's like, oh, okay, that's great.
Well, it's
And I
nice
do
to-
love her, but like it's like 30 movies that are as old as I am. Like there is this John Candy movie called Who's Harry Crumb, where she plays just a complete dirtbag.
Yeah.
She's great, but it's like, what are you doing? It's just stop.
When you can't even physically lift the equipment that the film requires you to hold, that's probably your sign that your time has passed.
I only remember her from Designing Women, so that
Right. Yeah, that show she was on in the 90s.
like
80s?
late 80s,
Okay.
early 90s. Like that's my only point of reference to Annie Potts.
Yeah, so she should. This whole story comes back full circle. We turned out that this chuckle fuck actually is required to defeat the giant monster, because they kind of tease that, oh, is he going to be the bad guy? And it's like, no, he's just a coward who didn't want the responsibility, so he tried to bump it off to somebody else. And then they're like, no, you need to come back because you're the fire maker or something like that, and then you're the only one who can help save the world. And it's like, oh, me? It's like, yeah, you dummy. I hate this guy so much. He's just not a good actor. Is he worse than Justice Smith at this point? Did you?
No,
Well,
Justice Smith, I would say
we
Justice
have a
Smith is
lot
worse.
smaller of a resume with what's his name, Justice Smith.
Yes.
Justice Smith?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say is like we haven't seen.
But everything we have seen him in has been like god awful. So
Sure.
yeah, I'll give you a little bit
Even
of a
the
break
later
for that, right?
seasons of Franklin and Bash so bad that even he left the show.
Yeah. I mean that's pretty much the film. Like there's really like nothing to this film. Like this is a completely soulless attempt by Sony to placate to old Ghostbusters fans while trying to quite literally ship this franchise into a young adult direction. It's like, did they think that by having Phoebe like I guess tease some kind of romantic angle with this ghost chick that all these like 16 and 15-year-old girls were going to go like patiently wait for the next film that comes out in 4 years so they can see how that relationship works in another movie? Is that what you were going
All
for?
right,
Because if you weren't, then like what the hell are we doing here?
So you're really trying to sell the idea of having a relationship with a ghost? I mean, a romantic relationship with a ghost. I don't even understand what that means.
It's something about Zoomers, I'm pretty sure.
Well,
Yeah.
Spencer brought up Ghost. All you need is a kiln and some pottery and some clay. to make some pottery
Yeah,
with.
but that was like a romance, and you can go with it. Although I found out that is also a sign of the magical Negro, because of Whoopi Goldberg is there to help the white protagonist.
I wish that I had the hubris and the narcissism required to believe I'm actually the chosen. I'm part of the chosen tribe. I'm part of the people that are really, is it basically being tied to God? Is it like you're divine or whatever? Because it's like, you people are fucking crazy. Holy shit. I hate myself to such a healthy degree that I will never believe that. So I have the other problem.
Oh well, we all love you here.
See,
Rob.
kids, this is why you don't become emo and listen to Linkin Park. This is exactly where it gets you.
That's
I
right.
thought you were king of the emos, Rob.
I mean, I used to
And
be.
just for the record, I listen to Linkin Park. I love Linkin Park. I even went to a tribute band.
Linkin Park is.
I
mainstream
rest
shit
my
too,
case.
so, yeah, but yeah,
What?
no. Hybrid Theory was before my emo phase, but yeah, it's no, it's more embarrassing shit like Spider-Man 2 having the Dashboard Confessional song was a Vindicated.
Oh, yeah.
So I mean, like all this shit is just like, oh, it's 25 years old. It's But and then and then it turns out a lot of those emo pop punk bands were literally like exploiting underage girls, and so it's like, oh sweet, it wasn't even about me. It was some weird facade to make,
But
girls
that they
swoon.
wouldn't exploit. They wouldn't. None of those bands would exploit ghosts, because they at least focus just on living underage girls, apparently not dead underage girls. And geez, With this movie, there's no story. None of the, I guess the characters for older fans, and I think not just older fans, but fans of Ghostbusters. And I've been thinking about this. There are people that we know who love Ghostbusters, and it means something special to them, and it's important to them. I never got the cult of Ghostbusters. I mean, the first one, yeah, it's entertaining. I thought of it as like a horror comedy, and it was entertaining. I never saw the second one. I just did not. These wounds they will not heal. Okay, so I just thought.
Would you please shut the hell up?
No point to this movie. You could cut out so many characters, and the movie would work just fine. You could have cut out the brother. You could have cut out the mother. You could have cut out the original Ghostbusters, or maybe just had one. So why is this?
None of these characters are good enough to warrant being in their own film. Not a single one of these characters. It's like, look, we've done everything that we can possibly do with the Ghostbusters franchise with the originals. I'm sorry you guys waited too long to reunite before Harold Ramis died, but guess what? You missed your boat, so you guys can go along about your day now. And none of the new characters that they've introduced are good enough to warrant their own movie either. So we're basically just trying to franchise whatever last drip of blood that this franchise has right now. We're just trying to squeeze it out like by hand. There's just nothing to it. Like I said, this is a soulless remake, trying to placate to either member berries or YA nostalgia. This is just bad. This is just awful. I didn't enjoy a single thing about this film. I'm just sitting there and just like dead face the entire time. And even now, like there's nothing about this film that to me would even warrant more than a 1 out of 5. Like I'm trying to think, it's between either a 1 or a 1.5, but I think I gave it a 1.5 initially, and then Josh asked me, was like, well, you can't do a half rating, so you're gonna give it a 1 or you're gonna give it a 2. It's like, this ain't good enough for a 2. So if I had to choose between 1 and 1.5, I gotta go with 1. So that's kind of where I'm at here.
What I'm surprised though is that Patton Oswalt had less of a part than Kumail Nanjiani. Like, I think he was in one scene that wasn't even important, except to show the animation of the fire god demon thing. That was it. I mean, really, you could have had Dan Aykroyd explain all this. He knows a lot about this.
You could have put this in a scroll at the beginning of the movie, explaining all this, and not had his character, and then just kind of go into it.
Yes, but that would require forethought. Here, I think too many of the writers and the producers, the directors, was it Jason Reitman as well, whom I honestly have not been particularly fond of. I just saw Up in the Air. I know you liked it. I did not like it the second time, so I still can't embrace it. All of them were just kind of coasting on the idea of, oh, look, we're going to give you all of these shout outs. We're going to give you Paul Rudd quoting the song that everyone loves. We're going to play the song at the end of the movie. We're going to show you clips of the commercials and the cartoon and even the music video, and you all are going to squee with delight, and you're going to love it, and we're going to have the suggestion of ghost sex and Slimer's going to pop up here, and you all are going to have a good time. But no, there's nothing. I never felt a threat here. I never felt that this movie had a purpose for being. So Jacob is the more generous one. I would give this a 0. I mean, this is really bad. I mean, still better than Argyle, but not by much. I mean, I actually debated whether this would be worse than Argyle, but no, Argyle's still worse. And I might watch this more than the Magical Negroes, but no, it's a 0 for me.
Sorry, I think I still have Argyle worse. I gave them both 1 out of 5, so I guess I'll have to try to figure out which one of these movies is actually worse. I don't know, Rob. What do you think here?
I don't know. I guess I thought that the scene where they had all the ghosts locked up was kind of like interesting. Like, okay, that's kind of like neat. And then the one ghost that can go inside any object, like, doing the lion thing outside of the museum, like whatever, fine. Like I'm really trying to think of things that I didn't hate or wasn't annoyed by. So it's a short list. I'm going to give it a 1 out of 5. This is the problem that we have with a lot of sequels, a lot of remakes. We have the cannibalization of the original material, the original characters, to minuscule results. To you take these things and it's like you bring up the memories, the member berries, and you do nothing with them. You don't try to build a new audience, or I guess you do, but in the laziest and the most thoughtless of ways. It's not really showing you care about fans. It's you're trying to use the fans to justify making this piece of shit movie. And, it's like you're trying to bring in the old people and trying to create a new audience, and your characters suck. And it's just like every negative characteristic of a teenager is here without any of the positives. So again, it's just like, and look, we all do stupid stuff when we're in love or we're falling for somebody, or I get that, but this character has no critical thinking skills, and she's supposed to be a scientist. I find that troubling. I find that to be a maybe an obstacle that's just too much to overcome. So, yeah, I give it a 1 out of 5. Not a very good movie. Certainly not the worst, but I just felt like it was very bland. It had no personality. It just didn't it was trying real hard with Paul Rudd, trying to be silly dad figure, and it like the dad jokes. There was that one scene where he chuckled at, I forget who he was listening to or listening to talk, but he like chuckled as if he just told a really good dad joke, and it was just like, I fucking hate you people.
Now,
Wait.
how long is this movie? Because it felt
2 hours.
it felt immeasurably long. Like I was like, when is this thing going to end? Because I mean, really, you could have cut the entire Patton Oswalt scene. You could have cut that opening with Dan Aykroyd
Well,
doing his little weird not podcast, but video thing that he had to have explained. I mean, he's worse than I am, but you could have cut so much.
Like and subscribe, guys. Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
it's just bad. Like it's just bad. Like I said, it feels like with this movie, I'm like scavenging like positives, like I pull out of here. It's just like there just wasn't like anything that I could have noted like as a movie. Like I guess the best thing I can say about it is that I just didn't hate it. Like there's a few bad movies obviously this year that I've watched that I've absolutely hated, like Magical Negroes, was a terrible film, and there's been like a couple of others that didn't do well. Drive Away Dolls, Lisa Frankenstein. Those are movies that I hated watching. Like this one didn't get the hate out of me, but it's like I can't really think of anything good to say about this movie. And look, I get some of you guys are big Ghostbusters fans, but it's like this one ain't it. This ain't
Let
it
it
all,
go.
so.
All
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
All of you Ghostbusters fans. And again, it's a puzzle to me why you embraced this and created this whole amazing world of Ghostbusters, and you dress up and you have the little cars. Let it go. I'm glad you had your good memories from your childhood and that you tied this in, but why do you need to keep this going? This should not be a franchise. This should never have been a franchise. I don't even think they should have had a sequel. Although to be fair, I don't remember seeing it. The first one worked fine. Just watch the first one. You don't need to watch any of the others. Really, just let it go and just move on.
What is I mean, again, I'm not a therapist and I only took a few psychology classes, but it's like I can kind of get there with you're part of a team and you have a purpose and you're kind of outcasts and you know what I mean? Like I understand some of that, but it comes off really like childish. I mean, you can like the movies, that's fine. Like I like the movies to a certain extent, but the whole like I really love Ghostbusters because I have like a fantasy of having a purpose with my friends, and we're doing. It's like, I mean, I get it. Like if you wanted to be part of the Justice League or the Avengers, or I mean, to me, it's the same kind of infantile crap without kind of any hint of growth or insight, or you know what I mean. It's just kind of like a childish basis for a story to play itself out. So to me, it's perfect for millennials and Gen Zers. It's just, do they know it's crap? Do they know that this, like, there's other better stuff out there if you would just do a little bit of work. It's amazing. It's amazing. Trust me.
Well,
movies are incredibly diverse and interesting, and Just try something new.
Well, apparently we're in the minority because I understand that the audience score is really high for this movie.
Yes, people are stupid. I also need to take the moment. I'm going to take this moment to say this, okay? Just because critics are elitist, snobbish assholes doesn't mean that everything the audience thinks is good is actually good. See, audiences are fucking stupid too. Okay, I'm not saying critics aren't, but it's like they tend to be, or at least they used to be, tend to be more well-rounded in how they view something. Audiences are very, very fucking stupid. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. I know I'm like in the middle where it's like I lean on critics for this, I lean on audiences for this, but look, it's also masses of people deciding if it's good or bad. You know, having a dichotomy, judging a work of art.
And that was the thing too, because earlier this week there's people going, well, it's like, well, I don't know if I can really trust these guys because the critics were just more upset that this series is ignoring the 2016 Ghostbusters, which is true. But at the same time, after watching this movie, it's like, no, the hate for this film is absolutely warranted. Like, I can't say that it's not at all. So
and I would just love to talk to Ghostbusters fans, the ones that really take this to heart, and maybe they could explain why they just embrace it so much to where they demand more stories, especially featuring these actors who are like in their 70s and 80s. Why
Rick Moranis can't come back because he's not even acting anymore.
Yeah,
I don't know if you saw that. He got beat up a couple years ago.
But he declined. He declined to be in the first one, in the 2016 version, where all the other actors made cameos. But he declined, and he declined to return here. He wished them well, but he's long retired, and bless him, he had his reasons for, which I respect.
Yeah.
But there's no point. I just want to know why this movie is just this whole thing is just so embraced that we required this movie that doesn't tell anything. I don't think this movie honors or respects the original. And I don't know why they keep embracing it. Really, just it's time to let
it go.
Yes, just let it go. Let it go. And it works because the villain is the male Elsa.
Yeah, there it is.
Freezing everything.
We know where you're going with that one.
Yeah, well, no, it just came up that way.
Sure did. Anyway, so yeah, that's the show here tonight. Those are the 3 movies. So yeah, I mean, whether you like it or not, the best movie of this pack was Roadhouse, the remake. So if you're looking for something enjoyable out of the 3 we talked about, that's pretty much your only option this week. And like I said, it's a middle of the road film at best. It's like Immaculate, there was just nothing there to really hate or really like. It was just a very, very just mid movie. And then Frozen Empire was just an absolute disaster. So let me tell you how this is going to work for the next couple of weeks. We're going to give you guys the next 3 weeks off for Friday night. So you guys won't have to worry about doing Friday night reviews. Here's how this whole thing's going to work. Because there's only going to be essentially 1 release over the next couple of weeks, we'll just do 1 movie review on the bar room starting next week. Not this coming week, but next week. So in 2 weeks in the bar room, we're going to be reviewing Kong versus Godzilla, which is the movie that's coming out this week. Next week, I should say. Then after that is Monkey Man, that movie with Dev Patel that I know Rob Motto is going to absolutely love when that film comes out.
He's going to demand Criterion for it.
Yeah. And then, of course, we'll also have
Jordan
a panel
Peele
discussion.
produced.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then we're gonna have a panel discussion on Civil War, that whole movie about Americans fighting each other and whatnot, and then we'll be back in probably about 3 weeks for another episode where we actually have some consistent movies to come out this week. So that's what we're gonna do over the next couple of weeks. So I'm giving you guys your Fridays off for the next few weeks. So go out there and go to Medieval Times or I don't know what Rob does.
AAA baseball games for me.
Yeah, right. So that's what we got coming up on the next couple of weeks. And now I'm going to go ahead and shoot this one over to you guys. You can promote anything you guys got coming up here. I'll start with Rob. What you got coming?
Yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to seeing Chinatown on the big screen next week. It's I guess the anniversary of, I don't know, 1974. So what, 50th anniversary since its release. So I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah, and I have just a shitload of reviews to get out. I think I'm now up to 7. So yeah, that's just I'm gonna get that taken care of before I start my new job, which is going through a background check right now, which is a lot of fun. And yeah, just check out my Twitter. I did a podcast this past week, went pretty well. So just gonna continue to do that. And get my Tubi list queue cleaned out, and hopefully 2024 picks up here and gives us some good movies to watch.
Yep. Go ahead, our good buddy Rick. What you got coming up, man?
Yeah, I'm just gonna write my reviews for Ghostbusters, Immaculate. Still need to catch up on other reviews, and yeah, that's pretty much it. And then baseball season. So there's that.
All right then. And then letting you know we got coming up on the Monday show, Bible Lens this week. I wanted to do a topic that I think is kind of topical about Christians in name only, but with Candace Owens getting fired from the Daily Wire this week, I feel like this is probably a good opportunity to talk about the whole situation going on with Israel right now, because I do very much feel like we're watching end times prophecy fall out in real time, especially when you look at what happened with Russia earlier today. I think that can also be another key thing that a lot of people are overlooking at the moment. So I want to try to figure out which topic I think is more important to address, and then we'll have that show on Monday night. But it will be this Monday at 8 p.m. And then I believe this is the last week that show is going to be on Monday. After this Monday, we're moving it over to Sunday night. So that'll be a little bit of a change up, and I'll have details for you guys throughout the week. This Tuesday, we got the next episode of the Barroom Podcast coming up. I believe it's episode 92. We'll be doing this week. And like I said, the next few Fridays are going to be open. I won't be doing much streams here. I'm working on getting some guests together for kind of some individual videos where I can interview some people, talk to some people, because I haven't really done that too much here on this channel, but I'm really look to increase some of that output here. So that's going to require just a little bit more work out of me. But outside of that, we got some movie reviews coming up for Abounding in the Comics this week. I'll be there on Wednesday night for the 01 stream over there as well. I did the Tokyo show with Cider and Nerdigans last night on Abounding. If you guys hadn't caught that one out, go check that one out too. So I got a lot of things coming up. We're shuffling some things around, moving some things around for the next couple of weeks. So it should be pretty interesting. But yeah, we got some very, very cool things coming up here too. So to everyone, just real quick, didn't you do a previous episode of which one of the Bible? Yeah, I did it from the perspective of how Christians should view the whole Israel conflict going on right now, but I feel like there is another aspect of it that we could talk about. I'll have the answer for you guys this weekend for certain before I let you guys know. And then Rooftop Korean says why you gotta rob messages is required for a background or a piss check. Yeah.
Pennsylvania is a lot more up on their shit than Washington State was. Washington State was just like, oh, hey, it's fine, and you don't need a drug test, and we trust you. So
yeah.
But yeah, no, it's just depending on where you are and what that employer requires.
So to everyone who joined us tonight, thank you for joining us late on a Friday night, even though I guess it's technically very, very early Saturday morning now, but whatever the case may be. Shout out to Rooftop Korean, Vanya, Co-Classic Case, Spencer joining us here tonight. Everyone on all our platforms, we will see you guys later. See you guys on Monday. See you guys on Tuesday. Adios. Good night. We're getting out of here. Bye-bye. Peace.
It's over. Go home.
Get the hell out! Get out! Get out! Get out!
Okay.
Get out! Get out! You get the hell out! Never mind who you thought I was.